Chapter 1434. 100 million in 2 hours. 120 million in a day, 12 billion in 100 days, 1,000 days. Although Jun Changshao sat in the drizzle hall and watched the sales figures rise steadily like an old dog, he was actually very excited. Even his breathing became hurried. Damn it! When I have money, I'll use magnetite to wipe my ass even when I go to the toilet. The system said, "Don't you feel uncomfortable?" Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "This is the life of a rich person. This is what it means to be simple, unadorned, and boring." All right. The system said, "I hope the host can use it after wiping it. After all, saving is a good virtue." Fuck off. Li Tian and the others were still accepting the real-time sales situation. The numbers on the screen were also jumping continuously. However, after 4 hours, it barely broke through 200 million. The speed was obviously much slower than before. The sales of the 100 shops when they just opened were all from high-quality pills. However, the quantity was limited, so once they were sold out, it was impossible to rely on ordinary pills to increase the sales. Moreover, those who came to the Eternal Pill store to buy pills were aiming for high-quality pills. If they needed ordinary pills, they could buy them from other shops. After all, the effects of these pills were not much different. I still have to increase the reputation of the pill store and become a brand that will be remembered by the world forever. Jun Changshao thought to himself. Ding! The host has spent 10,000 contribution points and obtained a magically modified loudspeaker X100. It has been transferred into the spatial ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 640000. Schwa! Jun Changshao picked up a pen and wrote on a piece of paper. Then, he called Li Tian over and said, "Record these words." Yes. Li Tian picked up the loudspeaker and pressed the record button. He read according to the script. "Hello, customer friends. Welcome to our shop. Now, all pills will be greatly reduced in price. Same brand, same quality, different price. The more you buy, the more benefits you will get, not bad." Jun Changshao nodded and took out all 99 loudspeakers. He said, "Record them one by one according to the tone just now." Ah! Li Tian was stunned. Lin Zhongheng, Sima Zhongda, and the others said, "If you don't know how to cherish such a good opportunity, then give it to us. Hello, customer friends. Welcome to our shop, customer." Li Tian started recording one by one until he was left with the last one. Su Xiaoma stopped him and said, "Junior brother, are you stupid? Wouldn't it be settled if he turned on the recording button and used the loudspeaker earlier? Do you have to shout it over and over again?" "Yeah. Why didn't I think of that?" After a day of sales, the elixir stores that opened at the same time sold a total of 500 million, averaging 5 million for each store. The main reason was that there were too few high-quality pills. If there were enough to sell, the daily turnover would definitely be terrifying. No rush, no rush. Jun Changshao consoled himself, this is just the beginning. In the future, my sect of all times will definitely be as rich as a country. Bai Zhaoyang was also paying attention to the branch store. After learning that it had only been a day of sales, a smile appeared on his face. Though their alchemy hall had always been dedicated to the development of alchemy, they definitely couldn't rely on love to generate electricity. Thus, they would also manage businesses, but to sell 500 million a day, that was definitely impossible. Hall Master. An elder said, although the Eternal Elixir store sold quite a lot, according to the cooperation agreement, we didn't get much of it. Bai Zhaoyang said calmly, this is just the beginning. When Sect Master Jun provides more medicinal herbs and opens more branches, we'll be able to sell billions or even tens of billions a day. Won't we be able to make profits then? Right now, He couldn't wait for the eternal elixir store to sell 100 billion a day because the more pills they sold, the more pills they could refine. Naturally, their side would earn even more. The next day, the sales volume of the branches in each major city was only 200 million, and it would get lower and lower until it finally stabilized at around 100 million a day. So many stores, so much investment. If it was other business families, it would definitely be a money-losing business. However, Gou Sheng could still earn quite a lot because just the high-quality herbs alone didn't cost much. Ordinary herbs were very cheap in the market. If they were brought to the sect of all times to grow them, they would become heaven and earth treasures. A batch of herbs could also refine a few full batches of pills. As long as they were sold, they would definitely make huge profits. The problem now was that it was a little difficult to supply 100 branches. However, as long as the quantity increased in the future, the accumulated wealth would also increase. Of course, Jun Changshao would definitely not only sell common herbs like the black vitality pill. He had already divided a medicinal field to grow herbs of other grades in preparation for entering a higher market in the future. The matter of the sect's business had come to an end for the time being. Whether or not they could earn more money in the future would require time to prove. Ever since they had more and more powerful martial arts facilities, the overall strength of the disciples had changed dramatically. At this moment it was difficult to see Wu Xing's level because they had all reached the great perfection. How do we upgrade the sect's level? Jun Changshao pondered. There were certification centers in the lower realm. Once the overall strength reached a certain level, they would be responsible for certification. As long as they were upgraded, not only would they be rewarded, they could also complete missions. However, the upper realm was different. Without such organizations, even if the sect became very strong, how could they let the world know and how could they be recognized by the system? They couldn't just run to the streets and shout, "My sect of all times is the mysterious sect, the Taoist sect, or the immortal sect." With the host's shameless personality, it's normal to do such things. The system said. Scram! Jun Changshao scolded. All right. The system said, I'm also dissatisfied with the host. Actually, there's a very hardcore way to upgrade the sect's level. What way? Pull out the system data panel and click on the sect level. Jun Changshao did so with a puzzled expression. As a result, a small panel popped up. The content displayed on it was reputation points required to upgrade the sect's level, 200100000. Do you understand now? Gou Xing gathered his emotions for a while and roared, "Fuck, why is there such a bullshit function?" The system said, with more direct data, wouldn't it save a lot of trouble? Save my ass. Jun Changshao roared, it's not like you don't know how hard it is to obtain reputation points. He had only earned 700 points in more than 2 years. It would take a long time to gather 10,000 points. Moreover, he had to use it to upgrade himself. How was he going to buy reputation equipment in the future? This function was obviously a huge scam. Alright. The system said, actually, you can change it to using contribution points to upgrade. Change. Change immediately. Ding. The method to upgrade the sect's level is to replace reputation points with contribution points. At the same time that the notification sounded, the data on the panel changed. The content was contribution points required to upgrade the sect's level, 64000100000000. When Jun Changshao counted the zeros behind the 1, he immediately squatted on the ground and hugged his head. With a look of despair, he said, I'd better change it back to reputation points. Chapter 1435. Using 10,000 reputation points to upgrade a sect was definitely more pleasing to the eye than using 10 million contribution points. At least there were not so many zeros. However, Jun Changshao was cursing the function developers in his heart for spending money to upgrade. Although the beginning was difficult in the lower realm, it would get better slowly. But now, upgrading the system to the upper realm version required spending money everywhere. Even the respawn required VIP status. It was simply impossible to survive without spending money. Sigh. Jun Changshao sighed. This is too realistic. Actually, having a clear way to upgrade was not bad. At least there was no need for the disciples to level up or gain the recognition of others. As long as there were enough reputation points and contribution points, they could be upgraded. What did this mean? It meant that with enough money, one could really do whatever one wanted. I have a goal. Jun Changshao thought to himself. Next, I just have to focus on earning reputation points and contribution points. The system said, Host, don't think too simply. You have to know that a sect still depends on the overall strength of the disciples. Even if you have the money to upgrade to celestial level, it's just a paper tiger. You mean that not only do I have to earn money, but I also have to think of ways to improve the overall strength of the disciples? Jun Changshao asked. Yes. What's the value of spending money to upgrade a sect? It's reasonable if it exists. Shut your grandma's leg. If spending money can't solve the problem, then it's purposely cheating me. Reputation points could be used to purchase reputation points. From the bluff suit, it could be seen that this kind of equipment was actually quite good. However, now that there was a function that could directly upgrade a sect, a new problem arose. Should he use it to buy goods in the future or save it to upgrade a sect? If something good were to appear, it would be impossible not to buy it. So if he were to save it and spend it at the same time, when would he be able to gather 10,000? Scam. A huge scam. Understood. Jun Changshao broke down. This motherfucker must think that it's easy for me to complete the main mission and purposely increased the difficulty of development. The system said, you can understand it that way. Fuck. Jun Changshao cursed in his heart. Then, he thought of something and said, right, I can use reputation points to buy goods and contribution points to upgrade the sect's level. Although 10 million was a lot, he could get a few 100,000 just by doing a side quest. Slowly accumulating it, he would eventually have enough. Let's do it. Jun Changshao immediately made a decision. However, the idea was good, but the crux of the problem was how to obtain reputation value and contribution points. Mission. Come quickly. The system remained silent. Ding. Sect mission activated. Ha ha ha. Jun Changshao laughed and said, do you think that if you don't speak, you won't trigger the toxic healer attribute? Wait. Sect mission. Go Xing's smile froze. Every time the number of disciples reached the upper limit, the sect mission would be triggered. After the disciples completed the mission, they would receive achievement points and use them to upgrade the sect. But now, the sect's construction existed in name only, and there was no limit to the number of disciples. Why would it suddenly appear out of nowhere? The system explained, your disciple has cultivated in the upper realm for more than 2 years and has completely adapted to the new environment. Therefore, a new sect mission is officially activated. After completing the mission, I'll receive achievement points and contribution points. Probably. I'm just a support. I don't know much about the new functions. It's either a slap in the face or a reverse healer. Now, you don't even know the functions after the upgrade. I'm embarrassed for you. The system was speechless by Jun Changshao's words. Patriarch. At this moment, Li Qingyang said telepathically, a lot of missions have appeared in the mission pavilion. Jun Changshao hurried over and saw missions listed on the mission bulletin. Some were about killing monsters, some were about going out to train, and it was similar to the missions given when the sect was upgraded. Damn! There were a lot of missions. If he completed all of them, he should be able to get a lot of contribution points. Qingyang. Jun Changshao ordered, inform all the disciples to do missions when they're free. Yes. After the new sect mission appeared, the peaceful sect suddenly became lively. Many disciples gathered outside the mission pavilion, either holding up a sign asking for damage, a healer, or a meat shield. It was like playing a game again. Of course. There were also levels. Low-level missions were suitable for outer sect disciples, mid-level missions were suitable for inner sect disciples, and high-level missions were suitable for core disciples. Above that, there were even missions exclusive to the elders. Plant 5 million purple phoenix glazed herbs in a month. Sun Bukong stood in front of the mission bulletin. After seeing the mission with the prefix, Medical Hall Exclusive, he held his chin and said, there shouldn't be a problem. The purple phoenix glazed herbs sounded very high-end, but they were the most common medicinal herbs like the celestial emperor grass. The Drizzle Hall, War Cavalry Hall, and other halls also had their own missions. Because they were exclusive, they were more in line with their own characteristics. Therefore, I won't make them up one by one. Those who said they didn't lack money to let me write them, that's enough. Ding! Disciple Jing knows that he has completed the sect mission. He has received 10 contribution points and 10 reputation points. Ding! Disciple Lin Jiangheng has completed the sect mission. In just a few days, many disciples completed the sect mission one after another. However, Jun Changshao was speechless. This reward is too little. One mission is 10 points. 100,000 mission is 10 million contribution points. Is it little? The system said. Ah. Jun Changshao said, it seems to be quite a lot. The reward was not a problem. At least after the sect mission appeared, there was a stable way to earn contribution points. The outer sect disciples had already started to move, but the core disciples had not yet. Because many people were cultivating in seclusion, such as Yixingchen and Xiao Ziji. About 5 or 6 days later, Li Qingyang finally caught the two of them at the back of the mountain. Junior brother, let's go and do the mission. What mission? An extremely difficult mission. Oh. Yixingchen and Xiao Ziji looked at each other, their eyes filled with a strong fighting spirit. Junior brother he. Li Qingyang yelled at Hiwudi, who was about to enter the life and death secret realm, do you want to go together? Sure. Let's go. Inside the mission pavilion. Li Qingyang stood in front of the bulletin board and chose the most difficult disciple level mission. Just as he was confirming the number of people, a cold voice came from behind. Count me in. Everyone turned around and saw their head senior sister leaning against the door. They wondered, this is a bit strange. There had been difficult sect missions before, but most of them were done by Yixingchen and the others. Lu Qianqian rarely participated. This time, she volunteered to join, which was indeed strange. Okay. Li Qingyang entered the name of the eldest senior sister. At this point, the mission members had been formed. There were 5 people in total. The other 3 were Yixingchen, Xiao Ziji, and Hiwudi. Wait. Where was Su Xiaomo? At this moment, he was sightseeing with Xia Shuiyun in Lin Yuan City. He said affectionately, the happiness of the past 2 years can't be compared to half an hour with you. Chapter 1436. Don't ask how big the upper realm was, you just don't know. However, this place was similar to the Falling Star continent in that there were many forbidden areas. Not only were they filled with danger, but they also hid great opportunities. According to the statistics of the relevant departments, every once in a while, someone would obtain precious treasures from the forbidden areas, as well as profound martial arts techniques left behind by ancient powerhouses. Opportunities were like a burning fire, attracting a large number of moths. Although some people were blessed and obtained opportunities, most of them still lost their lives. Thousands of miles to the east of the Eternal Sect, in the periphery of a mountain forest shrouded in thick fog, thousands of martial artists had already gathered at the crack of dawn. Demonic Fog Forest. One of the forbidden areas in the upper realm. There was a thick fog that did not dissipate all year round, and it had the effect of restricting the spread of spiritual senses. The upper realm divided the danger levels of forbidden areas into Level 1, Level 2, and Level 3. Level 1 was the lowest, and Level 1 was the highest. This demonic fog forest was classified as Level 3. Because it was the lowest level, most of the martial artists gathered at the periphery were in the void-piercing realm and those who had just entered the revolving core realm. The reason why the upper realm divided the forbidden areas into different levels was to let people know if they had the ability to enter based on their own strength. If the demonic fog forest was classified as Level 2, the martial artists gathered here would definitely be in the revolving core realm, or even above the 5th or 6th refinement realm. Oh, right. Although the Demon King's Cave was not classified as a forbidden area, the danger level in the deepest part was at least Level 2. When Xiao Zuiji and Yi Xingchen found out about the ranking system, they almost couldn't help but go to Ling Feng Mountain and give Hall Master Z a good scolding. Boss. A young martial artist who was waiting at the periphery could not help but ask, when are we going in? When the fog dissipates. The middle-aged man next to him with a face full of stories said. The fog that shrouded the demonic fog forest would dissipate at a fixed time every day, so martial artists who came here often would enter at this time. Remember. The middle-aged man reminded, we can only search inside for 4 hours. After that, no matter what happens, we must retreat immediately. Understood. The young martial artist and his companions replied. They knew that the thick fog would only dissipate for 4 hours. Once it was over, it would become thick again. If they did not make a prompt decision to retreat, their minds would be disturbed by the demonic chi inside. They would lose their rationality and become walking corpses. It was for this reason that the demonic mist forest was classified as a forbidden area. If one didn't take the initiative to enter the deepest part of the Demon King's Cave, it would be considered a relatively safe low-level training ground, which was why it wasn't included. Time slowly passed. About an hour later, the thick fog that covered the sky like a thick coat began to fade. In the end, it seemed to turn into a thin layer of gauze. Not only was the fog thinner at this time, but it was also the worst time to enter, which made it the best time to enter. Go. Swoosh. Schwa. Whoosh. In an instant, everyone began to move. After they had all entered, the core disciples of the Sect of all times led by Lu Qianqian arrived. Li Qingyang took out the map. After comparing the surroundings, he said with certainty, this is the quest location, Demonic Fog Forest. Kaka. Xiao Ziji shook his head and arms. Yi Xingchen said indifferently, does a third-class forbidden area still need to warm up? Junior brother Yi. Li Qingyang said, the demonic fog here will corrode the mind and make people lose their rationality. We have to be more careful when we enter. That's right. He Wudi said solemnly, since it's classified as a forbidden area, it's very dangerous. We can't be careless. Let's go. Lu Qianqian said, let's go. In the past, when Li Qingyang and the others were doing missions, they could talk and laugh freely. Now that the Grand Senior Sister was involved, the atmosphere was a little awkward. Swoosh. Swoosh. The 5 of them entered the demonic mist forest one after another. However, as soon as they stepped on the ground covered in rotten leaves, they immediately felt a certain gloomy attribute in the thin fog that was trying to penetrate their bodies through their skin. Use your true energy to dissolve the demonic aura. As Lu Qianqian spoke, she first activated the ice energy in her body. They could clearly see that the thin fog approaching them instantly turned into ice shards. Fog was formed by water, so it was difficult for ice-type martial artists to get close to them. Li Qingyang, Yi Xingchen, and the others all used their true energy to block the harmful attribute. The most valiant was still Xiao Ziji. He did not release his true energy, but used his sturdy body to block the demonic aura. "Let's go." The 5 of them walked forward. Along the way, although they maintained absolute vigilance, they looked quite calm. It was a sharp contrast to the thousands of martial artists who were walking and stopping in front of them, who were always on high alert. The demonic mist forest was very big. Therefore, after a quarter of an hour, the group began to split up and explore carefully. Explore what? Natural treasures or rare ores. The harsher and more extreme the environment, the more likely it was to nurture good things. Boss. The young martial artist who spoke at the periphery pointed at the black mushroom growing under a huge rock in the distance and said excitedly, "Black jade mushroom." Someone next to him hurriedly covered his mouth and whispered, "Why are you shouting so loudly? Are you afraid that others can't hear you?" The most dangerous thing about the forbidden area was not only the harsh environment and the powerful demonic beasts that could appear at any time, but also the martial artists who came in together to explore. Because killing and robbing was a common occurrence. The middle-aged man called Boss walked over and took out a special glove. He dug out the fist-sized black jade mushroom and said with a smile, "Our luck is not bad. We found it as soon as we came in." "Boss, I found it first. After selling it, you have to give me some more," the young man said. "Don't worry." Boss said, "Follow me and you will have meat to eat. Search the surroundings carefully and see if there are more." "Yes." Everyone hurriedly spread out and searched carefully along the trees and rocks. The young martial artist found a black shadow under a huge rock in the distance, so he ran over happily. However, just as he walked over, the black shadow suddenly pounced on him and bit his right arm. "Ah ah ah!" A scream was heard, echoing throughout the forest. "Not good. It's the poison-scaled black mink." Swoosh! Boss rushed over and the sword at his waist flew out and directly pierced the black mink. Ah ah! Although the poisonous mink was killed, the heart-wrenching pain still disturbed his mind and made the young martial artist's face gradually turn ferocious. His companions all moved away, their eyes flashing with fear. The poison-scaled black mink was not strong, but it lived in the demonic fog forest for many years and its saliva contained a strong poison. As long as it bit through the skin and entered the blood, it would make people lose their minds. Boss! Save me!" The young martial artist cried out in pain. The bitten wrist quickly turned black and the poison had spread throughout his body. "It's over." Someone broke down and said, "It's hopeless." Boss had been to the demonic fog forest many times and was especially familiar with the poisonous creatures here. Therefore, after a short moment of consideration, his eyes flashed with determination and he said, "Brother, I'm sorry." Swoosh! The sword flashed and shone brightly. Martial artists who were poisoned by the black mink's poison would completely lose their minds and then go on a killing spree. The best way was to kill them before the poison took effect. "No," the young martial artist cried out in despair. Ding! At this moment, a big hand suddenly reached over and directly grabbed the sword. Boss's face changed. It was fine to catch a blade with bare hands. But why was there a sound of weapons colliding when it came into contact with the hand? "It's him." Xiao Ziji stood on the opposite side like a wall. His hand that was as hard as iron grabbed the sword and removed the sword momentum. He said indifferently, "There's still hope." Then, he turned around and squatted down. He clasped the young martial artist's chin and threw a pill in. This action shocked Boss and his companions. The black mink's poison was not only strong, but it was also contagious. This guy actually dared to touch it. Huff huff. At this moment, the young martial artist who took the pill had black attributes all over his body. The skin near the bite wound also gradually turned normal. "Boss! Someone exclaimed, the poison is fading. Unbelievable, unbelievable. The middle-aged man's eyes widened. As an old expert who had been in various forbidden lands for many years, he definitely had all kinds of antidotes. However, the black mink's poison was very strong. Unless it was neutralized by a higher cultivation level, there was no way to neutralize it. Now that this guy gave his brother a pill, it was simply too amazing. Wah! The young martial artist spat out a mouthful of black blood. The poison in his body was completely removed. His face also gradually recovered. In the end, he said with lingering fear, I am still alive. I am still alive. Boss hurriedly cupped his hands and said, thank you for saving me, young friend. Saving the dying and healing the wounded is my sect's mission. Xiao Ziji's body immediately shone with the light of a holy mother. However, he said in the next second, 1 pill is 100,000 profound stones. Please pay. This, boss's expression became interesting. Of course. Xiao Ziji said, if you don't pay, the consequences will be very serious. Thud. Thud. Yi Xingqian and He Wudi walked over. The two surrounded the dozen or so martial artists. One clenched his fist, and the other shook his head. His body gradually turned black, and his eyes flashed with crimson light. Here. I'll pay. Boss immediately cowered and hurriedly handed over 100,000 profound stones. Although it was a little forceful, at least the young martial artist's life was saved. Therefore, he didn't suffer a loss and even profited a little. After Xiao Ziji checked, he said, I still have 10 antidote pills here. They can cure more than 2,000 kinds of poison. If you buy all of them, I can give you a 9% discount. Boss looked like he was about to collapse. Of course. Xiao Ziji said, I won't forcefully buy or sell. Finished speaking, he turned and left. Wait a minute. Boss said, can your pills really cure thousands of kinds of poison? Xiao Ziji stopped and turned around. He took out the token that represented his identity and said, do you think I will lie to you? Boss saw this and said in shock, Sect of all time's disciple. He, who had been outside for many years, had many channels to obtain information. Therefore, he had heard of this sect long ago. He also knew that the pill shops that had opened in various cities recently were the businesses of the Sect of all times. Understood. The antidote pill he gave his brother just now must have been refined by the Eternal Pill Shop. Wrong. This pill that could cure thousands of kinds of poison didn't come from a pill shop. It came from the hands of the Poison Hall's Hall Master Miao Saifeng, who would definitely be remembered by some readers. Although this woman had the least sense of presence in the Sect of all times, she hadn't been idle for more than 10 years. Instead, she had been studying poison. As the saying goes, those who play with poison understand poison best, so she created this antidote pill. Li Qingyang, who sought stability, specially went to the poison hall before leaving the sect and brought a lot of antidote pills. Okay. Boss said, I'll buy 5. 5, no discount. The middle-aged man took out another 500,000 magnetite and bought 5 antidote pills. He didn't doubt the effects of the pills. First, he had just verified it with his brother. Second, the Sect of all time's backer was Zhenren Tonggu. They probably wouldn't cheat. Goodbye. Xiao Ziji turned and left. Only then did Yi Xingqian and He Wudi return to their human forms. Eldest senior sister. On the way, Xiao Ziji grinned and said, we really sold the antidote pills. Like the situation just now, he didn't plan to do anything. After all, he had to be prepared to die when he entered the forbidden area. However, he still listened to Lu Qianqian's suggestion to save them and take the opportunity to sell the antidote pills. It was sold too cheaply. Lu Qianqian said, 200,000 next time. Li Qingyang and the others' mouths twitched. They thought to themselves, this is a little too much. Ah. I was bitten by a black mink. In a certain exploration team in another area, a martial practitioner was unfortunately bitten by a poison-scaled black mink. The poison instantly entered his body and caused him great pain. Faced with such a situation, his companions could only choose to kill him. However, just as they were about to do so, Xiao Ziji appeared with the light of Holy Mother and cured the poison. Then, he asked for money. The team leader was about to cry. One less teammate meant more profit. But in the end, he was saved and forced to pay. What was this? You're not paying. Xiao Ziji said with a frown. Whoosh whoosh. Yixingchen and He Wudi appeared again in their dark forms. The leader was so shocked that he hurriedly handed over 200,000 profound stones. He howled in his mind, this is the first time I've seen someone do business in the forbidden area. We earned another 200,000. Xiao Ziji said with a smile, if the patriarch knew, he would be very happy. Jun Changshao would not only be happy if he knew, he would also be very gratified because his disciple had learned to earn money. Let's go. Lu Qianqian said, there are still many people waiting for us to save inside. Li Qingyang's mouth twitched. He clearly remembered that when he had just entered the sect, he had a disagreement with eldest senior sister to save the seriously injured Xiao Ziji. Although he was saving people with the motive of earning money, it at least showed that there was a big change. There were many poison-scaled black minks in demonic mist forest. Because of their small and agile bodies, they often ambushed weaker martial practitioners. Bitten. Don't panic. Xiao Ziji would always rush to the scene as soon as possible like a skilled emergency doctor. He would first perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation and then give the patient an antidote. After the matter was over, he would leave in a huff. He came and left quietly, only taking away 200,000 profound stones. If he took the antidote to a pill store to sell, the sales would definitely not be as good. But now that he was in a poisonous forbidden area, there was absolutely no need to worry about customers. Therefore, he earned more than 3 million profound stones in a short hour. If Goxing knew, he would probably order his disciples to prepare enough antidote and push carts to sell them in the forbidden areas. Of course. Selling pills was just an opportunity to earn a little money. No one would forget the mission of coming to Demonic Mist Forest to kill 100 Demonic Mist Demon Beasts. Strange. Li Qingyang said, we've walked for so long, why haven't we met a single one? They should be in the depths. He Wudi guessed. Ta. Xiao Ziji stopped and picked up a black jade mushroom the size of a watermelon. He said, there's poison on the surface of this thing. Hall Master Miao should like it, right? The system roared, you know it's poisonous and you still touched it with your hands. Wait a minute. Why would I complain about my disciple? Xiao Ziji put the large black jade mushroom into his spatial ring, only to discover that his palms were stained with black attributes. As expected. This guy is poisoned. Without any protective measures, it would be strange if he wasn't poisoned when he used his hands to dig up the black jade mushroom. When Xiao Ziji was picking the mushroom, a team happened to pass by. Seeing him picking the mushroom with his bare hands, their eyes immediately widened. Junior brother. Li Qingyang said, you're poisoned. MN Xiaozue nodded in agreement. The martial practitioners in the distance immediately collapsed. Brother, since you know you're poisoned, can't you show some expression when you're poisoned? Can't you show some respect to the poison? Shua. At this moment, Xiao Ziji swung his hands. The black poison on his skin instantly fell off and came in contact with the leaves on the ground. Instantly, black smoke was corroded. Fuck. Everyone's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The black jade mushroom's poison had seeped into his skin, yet it was thrown out like washing his hands. This was too exaggerated. However, they didn't know that the poison didn't seep into Xiao Ziji's body. It only stayed on the surface of his skin, which was why it was thrown out so easily. As for why it didn't seep into his body, it was because his muscles were too hard. Shwa! At this moment, two poison-scaled black minks jumped out from behind. One bit his arm and the other bit his thigh. Gotcha! When the teeth came into contact with his skin, a crunching sound could be heard. It felt like biting on indestructible steel. Shwa! Xiao Ziji threw the two poison-scaled black minks down. When he noticed the holes in his school uniform, he angrily lifted his leg and started kicking wildly. The current trend in the sect of all times was that one could get hurt, but one's clothes couldn't be torn. This was because Yuan Gongzi was extremely stingy. Not only did he have to spend resources to buy a new school uniform, but he would also be recorded in his notebook. The more he changed, the more he would be deducted. That's enough, Yi Xingqian advised. Swoosh! At this moment, another poison-scaled black mink jumped out from the dark and bit Brother Anyo's butt. Boom! Yi Xingqian turned around and kicked it away. Then, he strode forward and expanded his personal divine weapon. He picked it up and smashed it on the ground. The entire process could be said to be extremely cruel and ruthless. It was true that thousands of martial artists had entered first, but they were searching everywhere for treasures. Furthermore, they were wary of the deeper regions. Therefore, their progress was slow. In the end, Li Qingyang and the others overtook them. Because they couldn't find their mission target, the five of them could only focus on digging for treasures. Wherever they went, not even a strand of hair was left behind. Second senior brother. Xiao Ziji dug out a big mushroom with his bare hands. He grinned and said, "There's really a lot of good stuff here." Li Qingyang frowned and said, "There's only an hour left before the fog rises. If we still can't find our mission target, we can only come back tomorrow." Hey! Yi Xingqian turned around and looked at the martial artists behind him. He said coldly, "Do you know where the Devil Fog demonic beast is?" Devil Fog demonic beast? Everyone's expression changed. One of the martial artists said, "This beast will only appear after the fog rises." Li Qingyang covered his head and said with a face full of despair, "No wonder we couldn't find it." "Then let's wait." Lu Qianqian said, "Wait until the fog rises." Eldest senior sister. Li Qingyang said with a solemn expression, "After the fog rises, the devil qi will only become stronger. I'm afraid we..." Seeing Yi Xingqian and He Wudi sitting on the huge rock, he immediately stopped talking. Fine. They definitely had to wait. Sigh. Li Qingyang sighed and then found a rock to sit on. He thought to himself, although the fog in the Devil Fog Forest is dangerous, it takes time for it to rise. After killing 100 Devil Fog demonic beasts, we should be able to retreat in time. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, a cold wind blew over. It's going to be foggy. Everyone, retreat quickly. The teams that were searching for treasures in various areas quickly went back the way they came when they noticed the change in the weather. They were so fast that they seemed to be in a hurry to be reincarnated. When the middle-aged man who bought the 5 antidote pills came back with his companions, he saw Li Qingyang and the others sitting on the rock. He hurriedly said, "The fog is going to rise soon. Why are you still here?" "No hurry." Li Qingyang said, "Let's wait a little longer." The middle-aged man was speechless. This place is quite far from the periphery. If we don't hurry back, we won't be able to make it in time when the fog rises. Li Qingyang smiled politely. "Boss, let's go." Hearing his companions urging him from afar, the middle-aged man cupped his fists and said, "The 5 of you, take care." After saying that, he quickly followed the team and left. On the way, his companions were puzzled and said, "Boss, the fog is going to rise in 15 minutes. They are still sitting there and resting. Are they looking for death? Don't talk nonsense. Let's go." In a short time, the big teams in the demonic fog forest returned to the periphery one after another. Only Li Qingyang and the other four were left sitting on the huge rock like old monks. Why didn't the group of people who sold the antidote pills come out? I saw them sitting on the rock indifferently. They don't seem to have any intention of leaving. Damn it. Are they looking for death? Maybe they think that the antidote pills can neutralize the poison in the fog. Impossible. That's a very strange and evil attribute. It's not poison. The antidote pills won't have any effect. Just as the crowd was discussing, the fog that had gathered above the demonic fog forest like a gauze gradually thickened. After 15 minutes, it returned to the feeling of a thick blanket. Damn it. They really didn't come out. The 5 of them are too bold. There's no hope. They will definitely become walking corpses. Ho! Ho! At this moment, a ghostly roar came from the demonic fog forest, which was shrouded in thick fog. The cultivators who had come here many times knew that every time the fog rose, a large number of demonic fog beasts that were infinitely close to the First Revolution core realm would appear. Even if the 5 of them can rely on the antidote pills to neutralize the demonic aura, their souls will definitely be wiped out by the demonic fog beasts and they will become puppets controlled by them. They want excitement. They don't want their lives. Demonic fog forest. At this moment it was completely shrouded in fog. The visibility was no more than 2 to 3 meters. Ho! Ho! The roars of the demonic fog beasts gradually sounded from all directions. It felt like a group of wandering ghosts had appeared in the night. Shwa! Shwa! Xiao Ziji jumped down from the rock and started warming up. After the fog rose, the demonic aura had indeed become stronger. In a short time, it was several times stronger than before. Moreover, it was still increasing. Gulp. Li Qingyang hurriedly swallowed an antidote pill. After discovering that it had no effect, he broke down and said, "It can't neutralize the demonic aura." Lu Qianqian said indifferently, 200,000 magnetite was wasted just like that. Li Qingyang's mouth twitched. Then, he said solemnly, "The demonic aura in the fog is getting stronger. We must kill the mission target as soon as possible and leave this place quickly." Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, red lights that resembled eyes gradually appeared from all directions. Demonic fog beasts that seemed to be floating in the air appeared and surrounded the 5 of them. From the light that appeared, there were no less than 100 of them. Yi Xingqian used his thumb to pop open the wine gourd stopper. He raised his head and drank a mouthful of drunken dream. His entire face quickly changed and he said, "Let the slaughter begin." Boom! Boom! Before he finished speaking, Woody had already rushed over and kicked away several demonic fog beasts. He said, "Stop wasting time and finish them off quickly." Swoosh! Xiao Ziji placed his right hand in front of his left chest. The hidden shield character instantly appeared. His gaze was solemn as he said, "Gundam, transform." Such a shameful line, there was no need to guess that it was taught by Go Sheng. Hum. In an instant, the shield character on the back of his hand flickered. Complex lines quickly covered his entire body. The mecha and helmet instantly enveloped Xiao Ziji. Ta! He took a step forward. A 4-legged brace immediately unfolded from his waist and completely fixed his entire body. Then, he raised the extra-large Gatling gun that appeared out of thin air with one hand and said, "Junior brother Yi, dodge." Da-da-da. Da-da-da. Bullets dragged a blue light as they flew out. Bullet shells fell to the ground with a crash. Yi Xingqian, who had forcefully escaped from the big jump state and dodged, saw this and said in surprise, "Wasn't it a sniper rifle at the beginning?" Chapter 1437. Thick fog rose, and the demonic beasts ran amok. Li Qingyang and the others finally found their targets, and there were quite a few of them. As long as they could deal with them all, the mission would be completed. However, the evil attribute was getting stronger, so they did not have much time left. They had to deal with it as soon as possible and return to the periphery. Otherwise, they would be in trouble. Xiao Ziji activated the special effect of the shield word without hesitation. His whole body quickly turned into a mecha armor, and he raised the 2,000 large Gatling guns. He then fixed himself in place and turned into a human-shaped fortress. That's not right. It looked like a sniper rifle before. Why did it suddenly turn into a machine gun? Actually, this was one of the special effects of the shield word. It was called firearms proficiency, and the user could change into many forms at will. Yi Xingqian thought to himself, did the patriarch secretly give this guy something good again? Da-da-da. Da-da-da. The 2,000 blue Gatling guns spun and fired, and the dense rain of bullets pierced through the fog and hit the demonic beasts. The firepower was quite terrifying. What's that sound? The martial artists on the periphery vaguely heard the commotion, and their faces were filled with confusion. It did not sound like a battle, and it was quite frequent. Under the fierce firepower, more than 10 demonic beasts were turned into sieves. Although their bodies were riddled with holes, they still floated in the air and quickly healed their wounds. It looked like nothing had happened to them. It can't be, right? Xiao Ziji was instantly hurt. This transformation trump card was actually useless against demonic beasts that had not even reached the revolving core realm. It was quite a blow to his self-esteem. Fancy tricks won't do. Yi Xingqian raised his hand, and the attack character on his forehead flashed. I still have to rely on strength. Whoosh whoosh. A strong wind blew, bringing with it rolling fog. After it dissipated, he was wearing a battle robe. Swish. Yi Xingqian raised his hand and grabbed the modified halberd in the air. He leaped and landed in the midst of the demonic beasts. Die, all of you. LV Nyo's jump was so terrifying. Whoosh whoosh. A powerful light swept over in an arc boom. Boom. Wherever the halberd light passed, the demonic beasts were cut in half. The scene was quite powerful. Amazing. Xiao Ziji exclaimed. The corners of Yi Xingqian's mouth curled up into a proud smile. But soon after, his smile froze. Because the demonic fog beasts that had been scattered gathered together once again, floating in the air as if nothing had happened. He Wudi said, these are demonic beasts in the form of illusions. They don't have physical bodies. You won't be able to harm them with pure strength. Fuck. Why didn't you say so earlier? Li Qingyang frowned. How? Second senior brother. He Wudi said, your lightning can attack the soul, it should be effective against them. Shua. Li Qingyang took a step forward, and the heavenly slaughter lightning mark appeared out of thin air. The lines on the sword were instantly activated by the lightning, emitting a dazzling light. As a rare and normal exclusive divine weapon, when he showed it, Yi Xingqian and He Wudi were instantly envious. They both howled in their hearts, if you compare goods, you'll throw them away, if you compare people, you'll die. ZZZ. ZZZ. The sword aura that contained lightning tore through the air. When it came into contact with a demonic fog beast, it let out a blood-curdling scream and then burst apart with a bang. It's indeed effective. Li Qingyang rushed out from the demonic fog and attacked the other targets with his sword. In an instant, the lightning sword aura burst out crazily, interweaving into a beautiful scene. Yi Xingqian and Xiao Ziji were silent. They thought that they could show off their strength in this mission, but, the limelight was stolen by their second senior brother. Don't just stand there. He Wudi said, hurry up and attack with your soul. Shua. Yi Xingqian was the first to rush over. He didn't use the sky piercer that had a strong physical attack. Instead, he summoned his soul power, which was hard to see with the naked eye, and attacked the demonic fog beasts that were attacking Li Qingyang. Although Anyo cared a lot about his realm, he had a balanced development in terms of morality, intelligence, physique, and beauty. His soul power was especially outstanding. If it wasn't for Hiwudi, the record holder of the training tower's soul test would definitely be him. Boom! One of the demonic fog beasts exploded. This kind of creature was born from the dense fog of the demonic fog forest. It wasn't afraid of physical attacks, but it was afraid of soul attacks. Trash. After succeeding, Yi Xingqian turned into the insufferably arrogant Night Emperor again. He didn't have the frustration of not being able to do anything to his target. Swish. Swish. At this moment, more than 10 demonic fog beasts in the distance launched their attacks at the same time, shooting out beams of demonic light. Ding! 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 Xiao Ziji rushed over. He raised his left arm and an indestructible steel shield stood in front of him, blocking all the poisonous light beams that were similar to hidden weapons. As he mainly cultivated his physical body, soul attacks weren't his forte. However, it wasn't a problem for him to use it for defense. Therefore, if one were to describe the two of them in gaming terms, one would be an AD while the other was a support. They could be said to have both offensive and defensive capabilities. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, an extremely strong cold current surged from behind. The ground quickly froze and spread until it came into contact with more than 10 demonic fog beasts, quickly freezing them completely. Bang! Lu Qianqian crossed her arms and said coldly. Bang! 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 More than 10 demonic fog beasts that had turned into statues quickly shattered and turned into pieces of ice. Their bodies were formed by thick fog. When faced with an ice-type martial artist like a mid-lane sorcerer, they could only be controlled. Bang! Bang! On the other side, Li Qingyang and Hiwudi worked together to kill the demonic fog beasts with their soul power. The strongest 5 core disciples of the sect of all times were not just for show. After finding the weakness of the illusionary creatures, Yi Xingqian and the others transformed into demons and started a crazy massacre. The number of missions kept increasing. Judging from the hunting speed, they would be able to kill 100 of them very soon. However, when the battle was in full swing, walking corpses walked out of the thick fog one after another. These were all martial artists who came to explore the demonic fog forest. Some were poisoned by the black mink, and some did not retreat in time before the fog rose. Although they were dead, they were controlled by the demonic fog beasts and retained most of their cultivation when they were alive. Roar! Roar! A strange roar sounded like an order. The eyes of the walking corpses that appeared one after another flashed red. They rushed toward Li Qingyang and the others as if they had gone crazy. Junior brother Xiao, I'll leave them to you. Okay. Xiao Ziji kept his iron shield and raised his hands to grab the heavy machine gun supported by a tripod. The dense bullets were like firecrackers stacked together in circles. Damn! Yi Xingqian said to himself, why did this guy's weapon change again? Ka! Xiao Ziji moved his arm and turned the machine gun to lock onto the zombie-like martial artists. He said, I'll send you off. Da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. Red flames shot out from the muzzle as bullets were spat out crazily. Ping! 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 The crazily charging walking corpses were immediately blasted into sieves. Some even exploded on the spot, splashing out disgusting black blood. Small fry. I can't do anything to the demonic beasts, but you think I can't do anything to you? There were hundreds of walking corpses that appeared. In the end, they were all turned into minced meat after being swept by the heavy machine gun. Yi Xingqian and the others were able to focus all their attention on hunting the demonic fog beasts. In a short time, they had killed hundreds of them. Retreat! Li Qingyang shouted. The battle had only lasted for a quarter of an hour, but the demonic fog in the demonic fog forest was getting thicker and thicker. Although they could still resist, it was getting more and more difficult. They could not stay. They had to leave immediately. Shwa! Shwa! Everyone rushed out of the forest. Huff huff. However, just as they started to move, a thicker fog suddenly appeared on the path they had to pass through. Then, it turned into a huge monster that was dozens of feet tall. Roar! A deafening roar resounded through the sky. The martial artists outside were so shocked that their hearts trembled. They exclaimed in unison, "Demon King!" Chapter 1438. Whoosh! 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 The demonic aura and fog continued to converge. Soon, it formed a 20-foot-tall demonic fog beast king. Judging from its aura, its strength was probably comparable to a third transformation core realm cultivator. It hung in the middle of the forest like a huge mountain, blocking Li Qingyang and the others' path. This is troublesome. He Wudi's face gradually turned solemn. Under normal circumstances, they might not be afraid of this type of beast. After all, they could run if they couldn't beat it. However, they were trapped in a forbidden area that restricted flying. Moreover, the demonic aura was constantly wreaking havoc. Go around it. Li Qingyang said in a deep voice. Swish! Swish! Everyone hurriedly rushed to the side. Even the warmonger Yi Xingqian became abnormally calm at this moment. He didn't blindly look for the demonic fog beast king to fight. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, the demonic fog beast king's fog-like body suddenly split into streams of light and rushed toward the five like ghosts. It was accompanied by a creepy cry. Be careful. He Wudi hurriedly said, it's a soul attack. As he spoke, he clasped his hands together and a powerful soul force erupted. It was as if it had turned into a sharp blade and pierced through several ghosts. Boom! Boom! Li Qingyang and the others also used the same method to break the incoming streams of light. The confrontation on the soul level was difficult to see with the naked eye. Therefore, only the dull sound of collision could be heard. It didn't show the effect of a physical battle. Damn it! Yi Xingqian's face was slightly ferocious. This guy's soul force is very strong. Although the attacks from the demonic fog beast king's body were broken one after another, the backlash from the collision was a little too much for them to bear. Swish! 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 Streams of light flashed and spread around. Demonic fog beasts were summoned one by one. There were at least 1,000 of them. It's over. Li Qingyang collapsed. We can't get out. These beasts weren't strong, but there were many of them. Just killing them alone would take time. Moreover, there was still the demonic fog beast king. Fighting on 3 fronts, who could withstand it? Roar! The demonic fog Yao King roared and summoned a group of subordinates. Their eyes flashed with light as they charged over from all directions. After dispelling the fog of war, they could clearly see from high up in the sky that Li Qingyang and the other 4 were like pitiful ants trapped in a stormy sea. I'll hold them back. You guys break through. Lu Qianqian stepped forward. Her long black hair danced in the wind, gradually forming layers of frost. Hoo hoo. Hoo hoo hoo. A bone-chilling aura emanated from her body, and the ground beneath her feet quickly froze. With her as the center, it quickly spread in all directions. Crack! 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 After the demonic fog beasts were corroded, they quickly turned into lifelike ice sculptures. Eldest senior sister, go. Li Qingyang only hesitated for a short while before he poured the thunder element into his exclusive divine weapon and shouted, kill our way out. Who? Yi Xingqian took out his divine modified sky piercer halberd and activated the 5 elements heavenly reflection art. Scorching flames instantly spread out as he leaped over. After landing on the ground, he immediately used total annihilation. Bam 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 bam. With the support of the flames, the demonic fog beasts were not only cut in half but also roasted into nothingness. Ah no, is getting serious. However, the main point now was not how to kill the demonic fog beasts mercilessly. Instead, it was to break out of the encirclement as soon as possible and get away from the demonic fog. Ding! 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 Dense poisonous streams of light shot over from afar. Xiao Ziji blocked them with his steel shield and said with a ferocious expression, "Leave quickly." Facing the increasingly powerful demonic fog, he was already starting to feel powerless. Li Qingyang and He Wudi might still be able to withstand it, but there was a limit. If they did not leave this place quickly, they would definitely become walking corpses like before. Hoo! Dense fog gathered around the demonic fog beast king again. Then, it evolved into a huge arm and pressed down with soul force. Boom! Xiao Ziji raised his shield to block it. His feet sunk into the ground. Especially when the soul force spread out, it crazily attacked his spiritual sea's defense line. It felt like his head was about to explode. The poison could not penetrate the tough body, but the soul attack could. Hoo! Yi Xingqian held the sky piercer and jumped up again. He approached the demonic fog beast king and gathered a powerful force to slash at it. However, just as he was about to touch it, the flames gathered on the weapon were extinguished. As a non-professional fire element martial artist, it was fine to deal with the demonic fog beast king. However, it was not enough to deal with the demonic fog beast king. Boom! The demonic fog beast king gathered another arm and sent Yi Xingqian flying. Pang pang pang. Brother Niu smashed dozens of trees like a cannonball and finally sunk into a huge rock. His expression gradually turned ferocious. The demonic fog beast king's physical attack was not strong. What was strong was its soul attack. Every attack carried a strong penetrating force. Therefore, Yi Xingqian was not seriously injured. However, the demonic fog beast king's attack had increased by several times. Wait! Since he was sent flying, wasn't it a good opportunity to escape? The demonic fog beast king sent Yi Xingqian flying hundreds of feet away. Due to the good angle, he was already very close to the periphery. Swish! Niu walked out from the rock, opened the wine gourd, and drank a mouthful of drunken dream. He recalled the sky piercer that was scattered on the ground and jumped back with cold eyes. Go, I can go. However, what about my fellow disciples? Ah! Yi Xingqian seemed to be possessed by an unparalleled god of war. He held the sky piercer and descended from the sky. Once again, he mercilessly attacked the demonic fog beast king. With the determination to break through the enemy's lines, there was only death. Boom! Boom! Although Li Qingyang and He Wudi could rely on their attributes and strong soul power to kill the demonic fog beast king, they had to divert their attention to neutralize the demonic fog beast king. It could be said that it was extremely difficult for them to fight. The situation was precarious. Swish! At this moment, Lu Qianqian floated over. Her cold eyes flashed a trace of coldness. The word ice quickly appeared on the back of her right hand. Then, an extremely strong white light burst out and shrouded her body. Huff! In an instant, the cold air was so strong that it was bone-chilling. Li Qingyang and the others, who were struggling to fight, shuddered. Then, they all turned their heads to look. Bang! Just at this moment, the white light that seemed to gather ice and snow suddenly exploded. Suddenly, it formed a scene of snowflakes dancing in the sky. Yi Xingqian and the others widened their eyes. Ta! Lu Qianqian landed lightly on the ground. Her black hair had turned pure white. Her beautiful face revealed an aura that was colder than before. Especially in the scene of snowflakes dancing in the sky, she was like an otherworldly fairy, the ice god descending to the mortal world. Damn! Xiao Ziji was stunned. Eldest senior sister's hair turned white, and her aura became stronger. Get out of the way. Lu Qianqian said. Just these two words immediately gave people a feeling that they had fallen into an ice cellar. Swish! Lu Niu hurriedly carried the sky piercer and jumped away. As soon as he left, an extremely cold air spread from behind. In the blink of an eye, the demonic fog monster king that was about to attack was frozen. Let's go! Lu Qianqian shouted. Under the activation of the text effect, her understanding of the ice element increased sharply. However, the frozen monster king was comparable to a third transformation core realm monster after all, so it could only hold on for a few seconds. It was enough. With the strength of Li Qingyang and the others, they could definitely escape. However, Lu Qianqian, who was responsible for the freezing, had to stabilize her state of mind at all times. Therefore, she could only stand in place and release her ice element to the maximum to buy a few seconds for her fellow disciples to escape. Go! Li Qingyang shouted. At this time, he could only choose to retreat. Otherwise, everyone would die. Go my ass! At this moment, He Wudi rushed over. The word door appeared on the back of his hand. Then, he took out the door of life and death from his pouch and opened the door of death without hesitation. He shouted at the top of his lungs, kick it in. Swish! Swish! Li Qingyang and Yi Xingchen immediately understood. Without thinking at all, they went behind the demonic fog monster king and punched out with their fists full of energy. Boom! The huge ice sculpture was sent flying. The moment it touched the door of death, hands suddenly reached out from inside, accompanied by wails and howls. They bound it from different angles and dragged it in. Some people would ask how such a big thing could be put in. The reason was very simple. After being touched by the hands, the Monster King instantly became pocket-sized. Let me ask you, is this scientific? Sect of all times. Jun Changshao sat in the main hall and said, Elder Zhen, how's the research on the teleportation array? It's too difficult. Zhen Dejuan said helplessly, there's no progress. No rush, take your time. Patriarch. At this moment, Li Tian ran in from outside and said in surprise, big senior sister and second senior brother's contract beasts suddenly became listless. Swish. Jun Changshao hurriedly got up and spread his spiritual senses to the peak where the disciples lived. He saw the thunder caltrip beast, the ice phoenix, and the other disciples' contract beasts all lying weakly on the ground. He frowned and said, they're in trouble when they're out on a mission. Swish. 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 In an instant, dense streams of colorful light flew out from the sect of all times. There were so many people that it could be said that the entire sect was mobilized. They were heading towards the forbidden area where Li Qingyang and the others were on a mission demonic fog forest. Chapter 1439. Li Qingyang and the rest's contracted beasts suddenly weakened, which meant that their masters were in danger. After all, they were bound together for good or ill. Needless to say, it was similar to a soul jade scroll. However, the difference was that the soul jade scroll could be transmitted to the contracted beasts as long as they were injured. It did not shatter after they died. When the disciples were in trouble, the whole sect would move out. This was a good tradition of the sect of all times. Therefore, in a short period of time, the upper echelons and disciples took out their rainbow wings and headed towards the demonic fog forest. Jun Changshao flew the fastest and could reach in about 2 to 4 hours. However, he was very anxious on the way and secretly prayed, please don't let anything happen, please don't let anything happen. After coming to the upper world, there would be more danger waiting for the disciples. Although Gosheng repeatedly stressed that he was mentally prepared, if that day really came, he would still be anxious. After all, no matter how shameless he was still human. No need to worry. The system said, although a high-star mission is difficult, since it is issued, it will definitely be carefully calculated. If a few core disciples do it together, the probability of dying is not high. Then, there is still a possibility of dying. Swoosh! Jun Changshao took out the ancient warship and retracted his rainbow wings. He landed on the bow of the warship and flew away with a whoosh. The speed was much faster, but the energy consumption was also high. As long as he could rescue the disciples in time and help them escape danger, he would not hesitate even if he had to use up all his assets. This was Jun Changshao. A scumbag who was so shameless that it made people curse him crazily. When it came to the Sect disciples, he was like a selfless parent. Baby, hang in there. I'm coming to save you. Whoosh whoosh. In the sky above the demonic fog forest, a dark cloud gradually floated over. The weather is changing. The martial artists who had entered to explore had not left yet because they were waiting for the disciples of the Sect of all times. It's been an hour. They must have become walking corpses long ago. Sigh, isn't it good to be alive? There was a lot of movement inside just now, especially the Demon King's roar, so the martial artists present were sure that the 5 of them were already dead. What a pity. The middle-aged man shook his head and sighed. Even though he had been forcefully bought and sold and spent quite a bit of profound stones, he was actually quite grateful to the disciples of the Sect of all times. Because if they hadn't saved him, his brother would have become a walking corpse long ago. Let's go, let's go. Everyone waited for a while longer. Just as they were about to turn around and leave, they suddenly felt a heavy aura pressing down on them from behind. Raising their heads, they saw a large ship floating in the air with the words Archaic Warship carved on it. Patriarch of the Sect of all times. Swish! Jun Changshao flew down from the warship and landed in front of the outer entrance with a loud crash. He asked in a deep voice, "Where is my disciple?" It's inside. Swish! Jun Changshao rushed in without a word. Fuck! We're going in just like that. When the fog is at its strongest, even rank 6 or 7 cannot withstand it. No wonder those disciples dared to go in. It turns out that their patriarch is also a fierce person. Watching Jun Changshao enter the demonic mist forest without hesitation, everyone could only give him great admiration in their hearts. And, they were going to die again. Boss, are we going or not? Wait a moment. The patriarch of the Sect of all times went in when the fog was at its strongest, so they definitely wouldn't leave just like that. 1 hour later. Swish! Jun Changshao rushed out of the demonic mist forest. The black attribute around him gradually faded, and his face returned to normal from its original black color. The martial practitioners who didn't leave all stared with their eyes wide open. Oh my god! This guy went in for an hour and came out alive. It was simply inconceivable. Damn it! After dispelling the demonic energy in his body, Jun Changshao angrily turned around and said, "Do any of you know where my disciple is?" The fog in the demonic mist forest was at its maximum, and there was also a great restriction on the spread of consciousness. He couldn't find his disciple even after searching for an hour, so he could only run out and ask others. All the martial practitioners were silent. Many of them knew the location of Li Qingyang and the others, but they didn't dare to say it out loud for fear of being dragged in by that guy. The strong demonic energy might not be a problem for you, but it might be for us. Jun Patriarch. At this moment, the middle-aged man who bought the elixir strode out and said, "I know. Reader, friend, please believe me. The moment you stepped out, it means that you will have a name soon. Your future will be bright. Follow me in." Okay. Since Li Dayton dared to step out, he was already prepared to go in. Fuck. He really gave me a name instantly. Swish. Jun Changshao put one hand on Li Dayden's shoulder and was about to lead him into the fog when the black and white Rakshasa finally rushed over and said in unison, "Patriarch, the demonic energy in the demonic mist forest will disturb your mind. You must not enter as you wish." As locals, they were very familiar with this third-class forbidden area. "I don't care so much." Jun Changshao didn't even bother to use me, which meant that he was very anxious now. Swish. The two of them merged into the fog. However, they returned after a quarter of an hour because the five of them were no longer in their original positions. PFFF. Li Dayden spat out a black sticky substance from his mouth. It was clear that the demonic energy had already seeped into his body. He hadn't cooled down yet because little Xia was frantically absorbing his attributes. At this moment, the higher-ups and disciples of the sect of all times had already gathered outside the demonic mist forest. They were either standing in front of the entrance or flapping their wings in mid-air with extremely serious expressions. The 1,000 martial artists who hadn't left were all huddled together, trembling in fear. Holy shit! Why does this unranked sect have so many powerful cultivators? Moreover, the gorgeous rainbow wings on their backs were clearly very high-grade treasures. Actually, if there were only a few people, it wouldn't have caused such a big reaction. However, with so many higher-ups and core disciples gathered together, and Li Qingyang and the others frowns and frowns, the atmosphere was a little scary. Swish. Jun Changshao released Li Dayden and was about to enter the demonic mist forest again. Amitba. At this moment, Du Nan walked out from the crowd with his black hair fluttering in the wind. He put his palms together and said, "Patriarch, the demonic energy inside is too strong. It's easy to lose your mind if you enter without permission. Why don't you let this disciple use Buddhist techniques too? It's here, it's here." The Buddhist cultivator who had been in the sect for many years finally came in handy. Humph, however, before he could finish, he saw Yao Menjing walk over and stop at the entrance with her hands on her hips. She said proudly, "Can't you just absorb all the demonic energy?" "Yeah." Jun Changshao slapped his forehead. "Father." Little Xia said beside his ear, "I want to absorb it too." "Okay." Swish. He turned into a 3 to 5-year-old evil spirit and flew out, then stood side by side with Yao Menjing. "Everyone, get out of the way." Swish. 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 Everyone retreated and kept a distance from the two. Aha! Little Xia took a deep breath, and her mouth instantly expanded infinitely as she absorbed the demonic energy in big mouthfuls. Yao Menjing was not so valiant. She sat cross-legged on the ground and used the demonic cultivation technique to resonate with the demonic energy in her body, instantly drawing it into her body. The demonic energy in the demonic fog forest was simply a super tonic for evil spirits and demonic cultivators. Fuck. This is too exaggerated. Eating the demonic energy raw, aren't they afraid of exploding and dying? All the martial artists were so shocked that their eyeballs almost popped out. No. It's still too slow. Jun Changshao waved his hand and took out a large number of magically modified vacuum cleaners from his spatial ring. He then threw them to the disciples and said, "Absorb all the demonic energy." Yes. Thus, the disciples of the sect of all times lined up neatly with their flat mouths raised. They stood at the entrance and frantically absorbed the demonic energy like firefighters putting out a fire. The originally dense poisonous fog began to gradually fade. "Go Fugue." Jun Changshao said, "Don't be idle, quickly come and convert." Swish. Du Nan hurriedly ran over and then sat cross-legged like an old monk, chanting with conviction. Wang. Golden light flashed, and the Dharma idol appeared. Namo Amitba. Du Nan quickly formed a complicated seal. He raised his hands to support the sky and shouted, "Great Diamond Sutra." Wine. The huge Buddha statue behind him suddenly opened its eyes. The light instantly reached the peak and instantly dyed the surroundings golden. Everyone was shocked and shouted, "My eyes! It's still not fast enough. Little fire, come out and purify it together." Swish! The fire spirit appeared out of thin air and directly turned into a flaming man. Under the purest and most intense flames, the dense fog was instantly incinerated. Some people were eating, some were absorbing, some were converting, and some were purifying. From a distance, the demonic fog forest, which looked like a demonic beast entrenched in it, seemed to be trembling violently at this moment. Could it still be saved? It couldn't be saved. Because in just half an hour, most of the demonic energy in the forest had been absorbed. Because the intensity and density had decreased, a large number of disciples were moving forward together. "Father!" At this moment, little Xie, who was leading the way, shouted, "I found something." Swish! Jun Changshao hurriedly rushed over. When the surrounding dense fog gradually faded, he found 5 huge ice blocks placed irregularly in the open space in the distance. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were astonishingly frozen inside. Ka ka ka. Ka ka ka. Perhaps it was because the ice blocks had sensed that the demonic energy had weakened, so they quickly broke apart. The 5 of them were able to escape from it and then lay on the ground, breathing rapidly. Wah! Lu Qianqian half-squatted on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Her white hair quickly returned to its original state, and her face was extremely pale. Then, she couldn't support herself anymore and fainted on the ground. Chapter 1440. Back to the time before Jun Changshao came to the rescue, although the demon fog monster king was locked in the death gate, it did not mean that the crisis was over, because the demonic energy around had reached its peak. Ah! Xiao Ziji half knelt on the ground, his whole face twisted to the extreme. After being punched by the demon fog monster king, his sole defense line had collapsed a lot, and now it was crazily disturbed, it was completely unbearable. Li Qingyang, Yi Xingchen, and the others were the same. This was the demon fog forest. The dangerous thing was not the monsters or the monster king, but the demonic energy that disturbed the mind. Ta! Just as everyone was struggling to resist the demonic aura entering their bodies and had lost their ability to move, Lu Qianqian, with her white hair fluttering in the wind, gently landed on the ground. She formed a seal with both hands and said, "Ice crystal protection, nothing can invade." Buzz! A strange pattern appeared on the ground under her feet, quickly outlining the shape of a lotus. Whoosh! The cold wind blew, and her white hair flew. Lu Qianqian, who was in the pattern, was enveloped by the light, as if something was burning. "Senior sister," Li Qingyang cried out in pain. "It will be fine." Lu Qianqian turned her back to him and said, "I will protect you until the fog dissipates." Her whole body was completely shrouded in cold air. Her words should be cold, but her words made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Whoosh! At this moment, an even more powerful icy aura suddenly emerged from the demonic fog forest, rippling out in all directions. Wherever it passed, the dense fog quickly froze. It was as if a mirror was hanging over the entire forest. Ka ka ka. Ka 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 ka. The 5 people's bodies began to frost, and then they were covered in thick ice, and the demonic energy from the outside world could not penetrate. With the ice crystals protecting their bodies, they were safe. However, whether they could hold on until the fog dissipated tomorrow depended on Lu Qianqian. Yes. Because she said that she would protect them. It shouldn't be a problem to hold on for more than 20 hours, but Lu Qianqian, who was sealed in the ice crystals, said secretly, "I need to pay a price." However, what she didn't expect was that after only 2 to 4 hours, the demonic qi in the outside world had gradually weakened to the point where it could no longer cause any substantial damage. Thus, she decisively removed the ice crystal defense. Although the time she spent protecting her fellow disciples was short, Lu Qianqian still suffered a backlash because she wholeheartedly supported the ice crystals to resist the invasion of the devil Qi. Therefore, after she was freed, she vomited blood and fainted. Eldest senior sister Ling Yuanxue and the other female disciples hurriedly rushed over. Jun Changshao heaved a sigh of relief. Although his eldest disciple was unconscious, his breathing was regular, so his injury should not be too serious. Patriarch, Li Qingyang stood up. Jun Changshao's heart ached when he saw them in such a sorry state. He clenched his fists and roared, "Suck up all the devil qi and burn the forest." Yes. The disciples began to move. Woo woo woo, the cold wind blew in the demonic fog forest, as if it was crying and begging for mercy. 2 hours later. Under everyone's concerted efforts, the demonic qi in the demonic fog forest was completely gone. Without this attribute, the thick fog gradually faded, and various treasures of heaven and earth could be seen clearly. Whoosh! Whoosh! Li Tian and the others split up to collect and soon took away all the treasures of heaven and earth. When Gosheng went on an expedition, not even a blade of grass grew. A third-class forbidden area was completely reduced to an ordinary forest. The corners of the martial artists' mouths twitched violently. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, who would have thought that one of the forbidden areas of the upper realm would be destroyed by the sect of all times in such a short time and become a speck of dust in the long river of history? Little fire. Yes. The spirit of the fire spirit turned into flames and rushed over like a demon. Whoosh whoosh. The raging fire enveloped the demonic fog forest for nearly 1,000 miles until it completely turned into a charred land the next day. Anyone who hurts my disciple will have to pay the price, not to mention Lu Qianqian vomiting blood and Li Qingyang and the others in a sorry state. Therefore, it is normal for this forbidden area to be destroyed. Under the fire, the third-class demonic fog forest was removed from the upper realm and became history. To the martial artists, this was a mixed blessing. They were glad that there was no more source of temptation, so they did not have to send themselves to death. On the other hand, they were worried about how to obtain opportunities in the future. Jun Changshao did not care about opportunities. Anyway, the demonic qi and treasures of heaven and earth were taken away. It was enough as long as he could avenge his disciple. Sigh. The martial artists who gathered at the periphery shook their heads and said, "Let's go." Now that the demonic fog forest was gone, they gave up on this idea and would not return here again. However, every time they thought about how the sect of all times could absorb demonic qi and set fire to the mountain, they were greatly shocked. Wait a minute. Li Dayden was about to leave but was stopped by Jun Changshao. Since this brother dared to enter the demonic fog forest with him to look for someone, he must not treat him badly. Therefore, he generously gave him 20 antidote pills. Thank you, Jun Patriarch. Li Dayden accepted the pills happily and left with his companions. Although he had spent 600,000 magnetite on this trip to the demonic fog forest, he had obtained so many antidote pills that it was definitely a huge profit. Moreover, as a rogue martial artist who went to various forbidden grounds to train all year round, antidote pills were far more important than other pills. Return to the sect. Swoosh. 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 All the disciples summoned their rainbow wings and flew back to the Aeon Immortal Mountain, leaving behind the charred land that was still filled with smoke. The news of the demonic fog forest being destroyed quickly spread in the upper realm and caused a sensation again. A third-class forbidden ground was not considered high, but it was still quite old. It was really unbelievable that it was destroyed by the unrated sect of all times. The Realm Hall also knew about it, but they did not take it to heart. If Gosheng destroyed a sect, they would definitely make their presence known. However, they could not say anything about destroying a forbidden ground. After all, there was no rule that prohibited martial artists from setting fire to the mountain. Extreme Grade Cave Abode. Jinren Tonggu sat in front of the chessboard and laughed. My disciple is quite capable. He actually destroyed a third-class forbidden ground. Clap. Masato Kitano put down a chess piece and shook his head. Your disciple dared to destroy a forbidden ground today. Who knows, he might dare to go against the Realm Hall tomorrow. I really don't know what you're so happy about. Jinren Tonggu could not laugh anymore. Masato Kitano said again, as far as I know, 5 disciples from your disciples' sect went to the demonic fog forest to train and encountered the demonic fog demon king. Oh. Jinren Tonggu was rather surprised. Wasn't this beast sealed? Since it can be sealed, it can naturally be unsealed. Masato Kitano put down a chess piece and looked at him meaningfully. The two of them had known each other for many years. One look from Jinren Tonggu immediately understood something. His face darkened and he said, someone is deliberately targeting my disciples' sect. Who sealed the demonic fog demon king? Masato Kitano asked. The Realm Hall. Jinren Tonggu clenched the chess piece and said coldly, well, how dare they play dirty? If it's so easy for us to guess, then isn't the Realm Hall digging a hole for themselves to jump into? Masato Kitano said. What do you mean? It's very simple. Someone wants you to vent your anger on the Realm Hall. Jinren Tonggu covered his head and said, no, I'm confused by what you said. The upper realm now is just like this chess game. On the surface, it looks calm. Masato Kitano waved his hand and the black and white chess pieces mixed together. He said, if someone pushes it lightly, there will be chaos. You're indeed an expert in chess. Jinren Tonggu said, even your words are so profound and thought-provoking. You don't understand. I don't understand. You've played chess with me for so long for nothing. Can you explain yourself? I don't even understand it myself. How can I explain it to you? Come, let's play. Wait a minute, the restored chessboard is wrong. You're regretting your move again. Bullshit, it's always been like this. Chapter 1441. Ding. Disciples Lu Qianxian and Xiao Ziji have completed a sect mission and received 100 contribution points, 100 achievement points, and 10 reputation points. When Jun Changxiao brought the disciples back to the sect, a notification sounded in his ears. Damn! I'm actually rewarded with reputation points. A smile appeared on Go Sheng's face. Although 10 reputation points were a little less, there were still many difficult missions. If he could get reputation points after completing them, he would accumulate quite a lot of reputation points. P.S. I know that the first mission reward is 100 achievement points. My hand slipped and changed it to reputation points. The original text has been changed. I knew it. The system said, the new sect missions are quite good. At least they can provide a stable income for the host. Not bad. Jun Changxiao nodded. Patriarch. At this moment, the Purple King walked into the main hall and said seriously, I met the demonic fog monster king in the demonic fog forest. Something is wrong. What's wrong? Jun Changxiao asked. Hall Master Z said, before I sneaked into the lower realm, that guy was already sealed by a formation. He shouldn't have appeared. As a monster king, he had naturally heard of the demonic fog monster king. He also knew that because he slaughtered humans in the demonic fog forest, a mighty figure personally came to seal him. Oh. Jun Changxiao knew what happened. He pondered for a while and said, could it be that the seal loosened, allowing this guy to appear? Impossible. The Purple King said, the one who sealed the demonic fog monster king is a formation expert. It won't loosen because of time, unless. He paused and said, someone deliberately destroyed it. Jun Changxiao clasped his hands together, and his gaze gradually turned cold. In fact, when he guessed that the seal had loosened, he was already shaken. That was because the demonic fog forest did not have any aura of a formation seal. If it had not been maintained for a long time, and the Monster King seized the opportunity to escape, there should be some clues. It's very simple. The system said, the seal formation was removed, so there won't be any aura left. So, Jun Changxiao's gaze gradually turned cold as he said, the demon kings that Qinyang and the others encountered weren't simply troublesome. They were deliberately targeted. The system said seriously, although the difficulty of the new sect missions is different, after strict calculation, there will not be any fatal danger, unless there is an unforeseen event. In fact, if the Demon King hadn't suddenly blocked their way, Lu Qianqian and the others could have retreated immediately. The whole process would have been more daunting than dangerous. However, some of the factors that would affect the development of the plot would definitely not be predicted. Patriarch. The Black Rakshasa, who had been silent all this time, spoke up. As far as I know, the ones who went to the demonic fog forest to seal the Demon King were experts from the Realm Hall. I've heard of it too. Bai Luocha said, he seems to be a deacon of the formation department. His cultivation level isn't high, but his understanding of formations is very strong. In particular, his formation sealing technique is even more famous. Jie Hall. Jun Changxiao's face darkened. Could it be that they knew that he had Jinren Tonggu as his backer and didn't dare to do anything openly, so they started to play tricks in the dark? Motherfucker. Jun Changxiao cursed. Look at how I've been keeping a low profile and not stirring up trouble. Do you think that the sect of all times is easy to bully? The Black Rakshasa held his chin and said, everyone knows that the Realm Hall sealed the demonic fog Demon King. If they secretly undid the seal, this method is too stupid. Bai Luocha said, the strength of the formation set up by the deacon of the formation department is indisputable. If they didn't secretly undo the seal, could it be someone else? That's hard to say. The Black Rakshasa said, there are more than one powerhouse in the upper realm who has studied formations. For example, Taishuan's loose cultivator. Although he doesn't go out all year round, his understanding of formations may not be inferior to a famous formation master. This, Bai Luocha suddenly fell silent. Black Protector, what you mean is that someone else undid the formation and deliberately framed the Realm Hall? Jun Changxiao said. The Black Rakshasa said, I'm just listing out the possibilities. That's right. Jun Changxiao agreed. Without absolute evidence, there is indeed a possibility of framing. He, who had been a little angry at first, calmed down after the Black Rakshasa's words. He said to himself, no matter who did it, it means that the sect has been targeted by someone with ulterior motives. We need to be more careful. Jun Changxiao was not afraid of enemies on the surface, even if they provoked the entire upper realm. The most annoying thing was to play dirty tricks behind one's back because it was impossible to guard against. In the sky above the scorched demonic fog forest, Empress Lingyao gradually appeared. Because of the swirling clouds, it was difficult to see the expression on her face. TSK, TSK. Suddenly, a voice came from above. Why are you here instead of chasing after Gu Zhaoxi? Buzz. The golden chariot slowly appeared. Jin Hao sat lazily on it with a half-smile on his face. He looked even more annoying than Jun Changxiao. The Realm Hall ordered the two of us to chase after him together, not to spy on me, Empress Lingyao said. Don't misunderstand. Jin Hao shrugged. I'm not spying on you. I'm just curious. Why do you care so much about the sect of all times? What does it have to do with you? Didn't I say? I'm just curious. It's because of that curiosity that you've been recuperating in the muscle regeneration pool for more than 2 years. He was blatantly exposing his scars. Although Jin Hao still had a half-smile on his face, a trace of hatred flashed in his eyes. I will have my revenge sooner or later. Let me give you a piece of advice. Empress Ling Yao said, if you want to live, it's best not to provoke him. Because of Zhenren Tonggu? Perhaps. Without that backing, he's not even an ant. If Jun Changshao had heard this guy, he would have said nonchalantly, yes, I can't survive in the upper realm without backing. But the problem is that I do. Are you angry? Sect of all times. After a few days of recuperation, Lu Qianqian's injuries had recovered. However, just as she was about to enter the Empyrean Mystery Realm to cultivate, Jun Changshao stopped her. If I hadn't come to your rescue, what would have happened to you? He had already heard about what happened in the demonic mist forest from Li Qingyang, especially that the Demon King had been killed. This woman had protected everyone with text effects, and her body was glowing as if she was burning something. What could be burned? Crystal cores, attributes, souls, anything could be done. But it was usually extreme. If it was light, it would cause irreversible damage. If it was heavy, it would cause the soul to scatter. Just a little more serious, Lu Qianqian said. Jun Changshao obviously did not believe her. He said seriously, if you encounter any danger in the future, think of a way to inform the sect immediately. Understood. Lu Qianqian said, if there is nothing else, this disciple is going to cultivate. Watching her enter the Empyrean Mystery Realm, Jun Changshao rubbed his nose and laughed. Ever since she went to the Taishan cave, this eldest disciple has changed quite a lot. Sigh. The system sighed, the only disciple who can be considered normal, under the influence of the host, has also learned how to save the dying and heal the wounded. That's right. Jun Changshao slapped his forehead, and said, since the antidote pill refined by Hall Master Miao is so effective, it should be able to bring a lot of profits to the pill store to sell. For this, he personally went to the poison refining hall. To be honest, Jun Changshao was very unwilling to come to the poison refining peak, because ever since he had set up a hall related to poison, there were layers of poisonous gas gathered here all year round, and the air was filled with a nauseating smell. Patriarch, what's the matter? In the hall, Miao Saifeng served a cup of tea. She was forced to join the sect of all times, and now she was already very fragrant. This woman was the same as Li Luoqiu, belonging to the older sister type, and because she played with poison all year round, her entire body exuded a different kind of charm. However, Jun Changshao did not have any thoughts, and the readers were very assured about this. Is there poison in the tea? Even if there is poison, it can't poison the patriarch. That's true. Jun Changshao took a sip of tea, and then instructed her to refine more antidote pills. At this point, a hall master whose appearance rate was close to zero had officially turned from a hack state to a tool. Pfft. A sound came from the toilet. After a while, Jun Changshao, who had already gone to the toilet for the 8th time, walked out with one hand on the wall, his legs weak, and roared in his heart, this woman really poisoned the tea. Chapter 1442. The disciples continued with their sect missions, but because of the previous incident, Jun Changshao became more cautious, so the missions were more difficult, and he had to put them on hold for the time being. He must be very unhappy that he suddenly became so cautious. Therefore, he had to find out who broke the seal and released the demonic fog monster king as soon as possible. What can the patriarch do if we find out? The system asked. Jun Changshao fell silent. At present, he could not rule out the possibility that the realm hall was playing tricks in the dark. If they were found to be the culprit, would he have to fight them? The golden-haired guy alone was at the 9th transformation reincarnation realm. If he did not rely on the energy-storing lightning rod, he would not be able to severely injure him. Therefore, Go Shing knew that with the current strength of the sect, it would be difficult to compete with the realm hall. Too weak. Jun Changshao clenched his fist and said. The system said, the host has only been in the upper realm for 2 years, so there's no need to be discouraged. As long as you focus on development, it won't be too late to fight when you have enough strength. It was rare that it did not pour cold water on the host, but encouraged him. Not bad. Jun Changxiao's eyes shone, and said, there's still a long way to go. If it were other ascended sects, they would probably be conflicted about how to develop in the future. However, this problem did not exist for Gosheng, because the industry had been fully developed, and he only lacked time to profit. In particular, all kinds of brand new cultivation facilities had been arranged in place, and the disciples had broken through repeatedly. As long as they kept a low profile, sooner or later, they would be famous in the upper realm. I'm going to start cultivating too. Many things were on the right track. Jun Changxiao put his mind on cultivation, and then, took out the experience talismans. Others leveled up by the traditional meditation, but his cultivation method was cheating. Smack! After crushing 5 experience talismans, Jun Changxiao suddenly felt that his cultivation had improved again, but it was still at the 3rd transformation reincarnation realm, and he did not trigger the epic mission. Let's go to the space-time arcane realm to cultivate. He went to the back of the mountain and blended in. As soon as he entered, he found Yao Menjing sitting cross-legged in front of him, shrouded in a dark aura. He smiled and said, you must have gained a lot after absorbing so much demonic aura. Boom! Suddenly, the dark mass exploded. Yao Menjing's black hair danced in the wind. A crescent moon pattern appeared between her eyebrows, emitting a crimson demonic aura. What is this? Jun Changxiao asked in surprise. Hoo! Yao Menjing's body suddenly surged with waves of dark energy, which then converged into a huge black shadow. Under the backdrop of the terrifying demonic energy, it was as if a demon god from hell had descended to earth. Jun Changxiao widened his eyes. Because, after the huge shadow appeared, the crescent moon pattern between Yao Menjing's eyebrows emitted streaks of red light. Then, a strange pattern was drawn along her cheeks. She muttered in a low voice, as long as the heavens and earth exist, the demonic path will exist forever. Lass. Jun Changxiao asked, are you alright? These words entered Yao Menjing's ears and quickly pulled her back to reality. She then opened her eyes and said in astonishment, Patriarch, why are you here? The pattern on his face and the huge shadow that had gathered behind him quickly disappeared as if nothing had happened. Jun Changxiao, who had witnessed the entire process, thought to himself, something strange. He knew that Yao Menjing had inherited the demon emperor's innate demon body, but the huge shadow that appeared just now was obviously not the other party, because the aura it emitted was really terrifying. Not to mention. When the lass whispered, her tone was obviously different, as if she was being controlled by some kind of power. I'm afraid that your disciple is hiding some secrets. The system said. Jun Changxiao asked, what secrets? You ask me, who should I ask? The system said in a bad mood. Jun Changxiao fell into deep thought and thought to himself, as long as the heavens and earth exist, the demonic path will exist forever. This was the slogan of the demon emperor back then. Now that he has come to the upper realm, why would he mention it again? In a certain dark altar. Just as Yao Menjing transformed into a huge shadow, the pool in the central area that seemed to be made of ink suddenly tumbled violently. Some water splashed on the wall and drew out complicated lines. If the camera panned back, it could clearly be seen that there were many ink marks left on the wall. Judging from the color and dryness, it seemed to have been there for a long time. If Jun Changxiao was here, he would definitely widen his eyes when he saw the ink marks on the wall. This was because there was a crescent moon pattern at the top, which was exactly the same as the one that rose between Yao Menjing's brows. Although the ink marks looked messy, they were similar to the huge shadow upon closer inspection. Outside the ink pool, there were 4 black-robed elders sitting cross-legged in the 4 directions representing the north, south, east, and west. They opened their eyes in unison, their turbid eyes flashing with excitement. Another innate demon body has appeared, our master's awakening is just around the corner. In the sect of all times. Jun Changshao called the black and white Rakshasa over and asked, "Brothers, are there any demonic cultivators in the upper realm?" He was still quite concerned about Yao Menjing's strange appearance in the arcane realm, so he wanted to understand the situation in detail after coming out of seclusion. "Yes." The white Rakshasa said, "There are quite a few." "Are they like the demonic cultivators in the lower realm who are not accepted by the world?" Jun Changshao asked again. "They used to be." The black Rakshasa said, "Now they are no different from ordinary demonic cultivators." "Used to be." Jun Changshao's interest was piqued. The black Rakshasa said, "As far as I know, no matter if it's the upper realm or the lower realm, all martial artists who cultivate the demonic path originated from the Wavy Devil clan." Wavy Devil clan? Jun Changshao had never heard of this clan. The Wavy Devil clan is one of the 10,000 clans in the upper realm. Together with the human race, the dragon race, and the stone statue race, they are known as the four great clans. 100,000 years ago, the demon god was wiped out by the combined forces of the various clans. Since then, they have declined and are almost extinct today. "I see." Jun Changshao understood and complained in his mind, "The demon emperor of the lower realm has been wiped out by the righteous sects, and the Wavy Devil clan of the upper realm has been wiped out by the major clans." Did the word devil offend the author? The black Rakshasa said, "As far as I know, the 10 great celestial sects were the ones who planned to wipe out this clan. That's why the Zanyue Pavilion has always been targeting the Jia Hall that was founded by them." Jun Changshao was stunned and said in surprise, "The Jia Hall was founded by the 10 great celestial sects. Senior Tonggu didn't tell the patriarch?" The black Rakshasa asked. "He didn't." Jun Changshao said, "As his disciple, I've always been left alone by my master." "It's not like you don't know." The black and white Rakshasa looked at him with sympathy. "What's up with this Zanyue Pavilion?" Jun Changshao asked. The black Rakshasa explained, "The Zanyue Pavilion was founded by the Wavy Devil clan. Later, they moved to the dark side and specifically went against the Jia Hall. They've been fighting for tens of thousands of years." Fuck. Jun Changshao thought, "Isn't this just the upper realm's version of the Demon Emperor's Gate?" Wait. Could the crescent moon pattern on Yao Menjing's forehead have something to do with this Zanyue Pavilion? Patriarch. At this moment, Li Qingyang sent a telepathic message, "Someone's here to visit." At the foot of the mountain. A teenager about 12 or 13 years old chewed on an apple and looked up at the sect of all times shrouded in clouds. He said disdainfully in his mind, "A mediocre sect, but they're built quite well." He rolled up his sleeves, revealing half of a tattoo. That's right. The teenager was Gu Zhaoxi. Because he had an agreement with Empress Lingyao, he had come to the sect of all times to visit even though he was extremely unwilling. "My apologies." Li Tian flew down and said, "The sect is temporarily not recruiting disciples. Please come another day." Crack. Gu Zhaoxi took a bite of the apple and said with a cold gaze, "What did you say?" Didn't he hear clearly? Li Tian shouted at the top of his lungs, "The sect is temporarily not recruiting disciples. Please." Boom. Before he could finish, he was sent flying with a crooked mouth and eyes. Then, he crashed into the wall in the shape of a letter F. Then, he gritted his teeth and at everyone. Patriarch. Elder. Senior brother. Someone's here to cause trouble. Chapter 1443. Swoosh. Swoosh. Inside the sect, streams of colorful light flew down and quickly surrounded Gu Zhaoxi. Their eyes were filled with anger and shock. They were angry that someone dared to cause trouble in their territory. They were shocked because this person looked like he was only 12 or 13 years old, about the same age as their junior brother, Sun Mucheng. If it was before, it would be normal for Li Tian to lose. Now that he had entered the void-piercing realm, how could he still be hit by the wall? Kid! Su Xiaoma said coldly, how dare you cause trouble in our sect of all times? Are you tired of living? Swoosh! Suddenly, Gu Zhaoxi appeared in front of him with his back bent. He gathered violent energy in his right fist and said coldly, remember, call me grandpa. Boom! Su Xiaoma's eyeballs protruded out of their sockets. Her mouth was crooked and her eyes were slanted as she flew out and landed next to Li Tianshan. Junior brother. Li Qingyang's face changed drastically. This guy who was about the same age as his junior brother was quite powerful. His realm was probably, boom. While he was thinking, an extremely cold fist wind whistled toward him. Be careful. Xiao Zuiji rushed over with big strides. Cloud Boat Hero hid himself in front of second senior brother and immediately formed a solid defensive barrier. Boom! Boom! His fist, which seemed to weigh tens of thousands of kilograms, not only broke through the defense of the divine weapons, but also sent Li Qingyang and Xiao Zuiji flying. Tisk, Gu Zhaoxi stood in place and said disdainfully, you can't even take a punch from me. You guys are too weak. Yi Xingqian, who had just rushed over after hearing the news, saw his two senior brothers being sent flying. He immediately activated the unparalleled War God mode and jumped over with the Sky Piercer in his hand. Trash! Die! Huff! Huff! A powerful force pressed down from above. It was obvious that Anyo was extremely angry. In the past, he stayed in the sect to become stronger. Now, he stayed in the sect to protect. Someone asked what was the meaning of the demonic fog forest. The answer was here. I didn't want to talk too much about the feelings between the various sects, because that would seem too pretentious. But in reality, Lu Qianqian and Yi Xingqian's changes were proof that everyone was gradually becoming one big family. Boom! Yi Xingqian, who had jumped over, was also blasted into the wall. Beside him were Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji. It could be said that they were a family. He Wudi, who was about to attack, hesitated. From the brief exchange of blows, he could tell that this young man was extremely powerful. If he went, he would definitely be abused. He couldn't care less. Just as He Wudi was about to make his move, the purple craggy monster king flew over first. As he landed, he took off his clothes and threw them on He Wudi's face. The purple craggy monster king then collapsed to the ground, foaming at the mouth. Although this set of clothes would never wear out, it had never been washed after obtaining it. The smell of sweat and body odor on it was even more terrifying than a biological weapon. Ho! Hall Master Purple, who was only wearing red underpants, put on pink gloves and punched out with his fists full of demonic energy. Gu Zhaoxi said in surprise, demonic beast. As he spoke, his body moved aside, avoiding the incoming fists. He commented, you have some strength. Ho! Purple craggy demon monarch punched out. From the explosive power, it was obvious that he was much stronger than when he went to the Demon King's cave. He didn't cultivate the 1,000 shadow clones art for nothing. Pa! However, the heavy attack was easily caught by Gu Zhaoxi's palm. He shook his head and said, but in front of me, it's still not enough. Ho! As he spoke, an explosive shockwave surged out from his body, sending the purple craggy demon monarch flying. The purple craggy demon monarch was sent crashing into the wall. Hall Master. A few core disciples. In front of Gu Zhaoxi, they couldn't even withstand a single blow. Ding Xingwang rushed over and shouted, formation. Shua! Shua! Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the rest walked out from the crater and quickly flew over. They surrounded Gu Zhaoxi from different directions and set up the four corners heaven and earth formation. Buzz! In an instant, everyone's light flashed and connected with each other. The Four Corners Heaven and Earth formation was the only battle formation in the sect of all times that could be set up by everyone. The more people there were, the stronger it was. At this moment, the number of people who bought the formation, including the higher-ups and disciples, totaled to 500. Tsk Gu Zhaoxi, who was surrounded, sneered with disdain in his eyes. Go! Li Qingyang shouted. Shua! 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 The 500 disciples began to move around, forming complicated hand seals one after another. In an instant, numerous palms were formed and pressed down like an inescapable net. With the support of the Four Corners Heaven and Earth formation, the power of the sky-crossing palm was even stronger. However, Gu Zhaoxi, who was standing under the palm shadows, didn't panic at all. Instead, he sneered. Ta! He took a step forward and his aura exploded. He shouted, Firmament Reincarnation Palm. Gu Zhaoxi's body seemed to have enlarged. Many materialized hands gathered behind his back and smashed down from the bottom. Tens of thousands of palms pressed down from above. Tens of thousands of palms met it from below. The scene that appeared could be said to be extremely gorgeous. Boom! 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 In an instant, a deafening explosion came from the hollow area. From afar, it looked like fireworks blooming. Bam bam bam! Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the rest immediately suffered from the backlash and were sent flying. They then fell to the ground in a sorry state. Second senior brother. Su Xiaomao suppressed the boiling blood in his body and said, This guy is too strong. More than strong. It was simply a merciless suppression. Gu Zhaoxi retracted his powerful aura and shook his head. I thought this formation was not bad. Who knew that it couldn't even withstand 20% of my strength? Hearing this guy's pretentious words, the disciples of the sect of all times were furious. Swoosh! Swoosh! At this moment, the black and white Rakshasa flew out of the sect in a spiral and landed at the foot of the mountain. They said with a serious look, Who are you? I'm just an itinerant cultivator, Gu Zhaoxi said. He was here to be a spy and definitely had to hide his identity. However, he had reversed his name. This manipulation was a little too showy. Has the sect of all times offended you? No. Gu Zhaoxi proudly cupped his hands and said, However, I'm very unhappy that I was rejected. The black and white Rakshasa's expressions were a little interesting. He directly attacked people because they didn't let him in. This guy's temper was a little bad. Friend. At this moment, a loud voice came from the mountain. You can join the sect of all times, but you have to pass the test first. Gu Zhaoxi looked up and saw a handsome young man standing in front of the mountain gate. Although he looked annoying, there was a sense of familiarity. He asked subconsciously, Who are you? The patriarch of the sect of all times. Although Jun Changshao was smiling now, he was about to explode in anger. Damn it! You came to my sect to cause trouble and hurt my disciple. If I don't teach you a lesson today, how can I be a patriarch in the future? Heh! Gu Zhaoxi said, So you're Zhenren Tonggu's personal disciple. Come. I accept the test. Boom! The Tianyuan prison pagoda stood at the foot of the mountain. Jun Changshao seriously said, This pagoda was given to me by my master. There are various tests inside. If you can pass them in 2 hours, you'll be qualified to be a disciple of the sect of all times. As expected. The black and white Rakshasa thought to themselves, This pagoda was given to me by Zhenren Tonggu. Unlike the two of them, Wudi was thinking, it can refine all kinds of evil attributes and contain living beings. The 7 profound saints' treasure is really unpredictable. I can enter after passing. That's right. Good. Gu Zhaoxi shook his head and said arrogantly, I'll give it a try. Chapter 1444. Jun Changshao was a little confused when he heard that the other party wanted to break into the Tianyuan prison pagoda. Although this guy was strong, he seemed to be very gullible. Just one sentence and he wanted him to crawl into the cage. The bravery of an ignorant man was probably used to describe this kind of person. Jun Changshao did not immediately open the Tianyuan prison pagoda to let him in. Instead, he said seriously, "The test inside is extremely cruel. Are you sure you want to try? Cut the crap." Gu Zhaoxi said impatiently, "I can't wait any longer." Jun Changshao was immediately sure that this guy was very gullible. He thought to himself, in the cruel upper realm, how did he cultivate to such a high level? Although martial arts were important in the martial arts world, if one was not careful, one would die a horrible death. The young man in front of him was a complete hothead. It was unbelievable that he could live until now and have such an extraordinary cultivation. Creak. The tightly shut door of the Tianyuan prison pagoda slowly opened, and a majestic wave of air emerged from the inside. That's strange. Gu Zhaoxi felt it and said to himself, "Why does it feel so familiar?" Just as he was hesitating, Jun Changshao fanned the flames and said, "If you're worried that you won't pass the test, it's not too late to regret now." Tsk Gu Zhaoxi stopped his wild thoughts and said proudly, "In my dictionary, the word regret has never existed." Jun Changshao was speechless. It was not difficult to tell from the other party's body and words that he was really only 12 or 13 years old. He actually called himself Sir, which was a little arrogant. Sigh. The two life and death brothers talked for a long time but did not recognize each other. It was understandable. After all, Gu Zhaoxi had reincarnated. Not only did he lose part of his memory, but his appearance and voice had changed greatly. Jun Changshao would definitely not recognize him unless he took off his clothes and revealed his tattoos or used his real name. "Please. Step." Gu Zhaoxi swaggered over. Even if there was a mountain of blades and a sea of flames in front of him, he wouldn't feel any fear because the worst that could happen was death. The heavens took away part of his memories and intelligence, but gave him the ability to reincarnate. In a way, it was a balance. Just like Jun Changshao. His cheats were doing well, but the moment he opened his mouth, it was as if he wanted to die. No one is perfect. Who doesn't have flaws? Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Gu Zhaoxi entered the Tianyuan prison pagoda and closed the door with a bang. Who? Li Qingyang and the others felt relieved. Although they had never experienced the power of the Tianyuan prison pagoda, they deeply knew that as long as they were locked up, even the most unyielding people would cry for their parents. Swish. Jun Changshao waved his hand and retrieved the treasure. He then stood in the posture of heavenly kingly and said, "Area, serve this fellow well." Assessment? That was impossible. He had to torture this troublemaker until he was hovering between life and death. Yes. Area's voice sounded in his ears, "Master." Inside the Tianyuan prison pagoda. When the door closed, the environment became dark. Gu Zhaoxi suddenly frowned, because the sense of familiarity in his sea of consciousness became stronger. Me? I've been here before. He couldn't remember because of his memory loss, so he had to put it to the back of his mind and continue to move forward. Swish. Swish. After a few steps, lights suddenly flashed around him. Gu Zhaoxi subconsciously closed his eyes. After he gradually adapted, he saw a girl in leather clothes and boots sitting on a wooden armchair in front of him. Her right leg was crossed over her left leg, one hand was supporting her cheek, and the other hand was holding a whip. There was a harmless smile on her face. Area. The warden and the absolute soul of the pagoda of confinement. Behind her, Zhao Daodu stood on the left, and Dai Lu stood on the right. Under the contrast of the lights, Area was like the king of hell, and the other two were like judges. The prison trio was extremely terrifying. "You're here. Zhao Daodu smiled and said, "Little brother." Although Pei Sili was recently locked up, the days were still too boring. Now that someone else was here, they had to warmly welcome him. "Tisk," Gu Zhaoxi snorted, "how do we test him?" Arya narrowed her eyes, "Daodu, little Louis, this guy is a little arrogant." "Of course." Zhao Daodu said, "Those who are not arrogant are not qualified to enter." Although the Tianyuan prison pagoda was used to lock up prisoners, it was also used to deal with all kinds of disobedience. If that's the case. Arya stood up, and the requiem whip scattered freely on the ground. She shook her head and said, "Then we'll make him restrain his arrogance today." Swish. Swish. Zhao Daodu and Dai Lu hurriedly retreated and then sat on a small bench in the distance, looking like onlookers. Gu Zhaoxi said, "You want to fight?" "That's right." Arya dragged the requiem whip and walked over. Because she was wearing leather clothes and boots, she looked like a big sister. Gu Zhaoxi's eyes were filled with strong disdain. "Is there no one else in the sect of all times that they sent a little girl to test me?" "Sir." Arya's face gradually darkened, "Are you serious?" In the Tianyuan prison pagoda, she was the little ancestor and grand-aunt. This guy actually called himself sir. He really deserved a beating. Crack. Gu Zhaoxi clenched his fists and sneered, "Don't think that I won't dare to hit you just because you're a girl." Swish. At this moment, Arya suddenly swung the requiem whip over. In terms of speed and strength, it was not fast. Gu Zhaoxi did not care at all, so he raised his hand and grabbed it. Pa! His big hand was like a pincer and caught the attacking whip. "You think you're qualified to test me with this little ability?" Gu Zhaoxi suddenly stopped talking, the smile on his face frozen. His whole body seemed to be bombarded by tens of thousands of volts of electricity, and his whole body was instantly electrocuted. It was not electricity. It was a soul attack. Swish. Arya swung her hand and pulled the requiem whip back, and immediately waved it like a silver snake. The sky was filled with flowing light, and instantly formed an inescapable net. "It's over," Dai Lu said. Before joining the sect of all times, although he had not been trained by Arya, he had seen many strong people being whipped. Anyone who was hurt would definitely cry like ghosts and howl like wolves. As expected. With the sound of "pa pa pa," Gu Zhaoxi suddenly grimaced and screamed. Zhao Daodu summoned the magically modified stereo and pressed the play button. Suddenly, a beautiful voice came from it, "When I think of you, Wu, I regret not having dreamed for so long. Ah ah ah. Ah 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 ah." Arya whipped crazily, and Gu Zhaoxi jumped crazily. Under the accompaniment of the music, he instantly turned into a maniac. Swish. After a short while, a rope flew over and tied him up. This scene had been played in the mortal world. "Candles, come." Swish. Zhao Daodu and Dai Lu handed over the requiem candles. "I'll let you be crazy, I'll let you be proud." Arya held one in each hand, and directly splashed the wax on him. Gu Zhaoxi suddenly screamed like a pig being slaughtered. This level of training was painful to the bone marrow and the depths of the soul, but it also slowly broke the memory seal, and gradually made him remember many things. He remembered that when he wanted to die, he was locked in a place and went through the same torture. I remember. I remember. No wonder this place was familiar. It turned out that he had been here before, and even after the torture, he had a great fear of death. In other words, this place was Tianyuan Prison Pagoda. Swish. The memories of the past gradually came back, and a face appeared in Gu Zhaoxi's mind, which overlapped with the patriarch of the sect of all times he saw just now. So, he endured the torture on his soul and shouted, "Brother, it's me." Chapter 1445. In the 9th level of hell, Gu Zhaoxi was determined to die. He was quite passive. Jun Changshao couldn't stand it anymore. In order to re-establish his belief in living, he sent him to Tianyuan prison pagoda. They were brothers. Under Aria's careful care, Gu Zhaoxi didn't want to die, because he began to fear death more. Because of this, Jun Changshao felt that he had done a good deed of boundless virtue. Thank you so much. Later, Gu Zhaoxi sacrificed himself to save Go Sheng. Although he was reborn, he lost part of his memory, including the fear of being dominated by Aria. It was okay. The best way to deal with amnesia patients was to take them to revisit old places, or to experience what they had experienced before. They would definitely get better slowly. The word slowly was removed. Because under the second soul training, Gu Zhaoxi not only remembered the past, but also remembered that he had been reborn several times and had sneaked into a female bathhouse when he was 3 or 4 years old. More importantly, he remembered Jun Changshao. That face, that voice, wasn't it the patriarch of the sect of all times who was standing at the gate just now? It was him. He was the brother that he always missed. So, in the future, if you see cliché plots such as falling into the sea, car accident, or amnesia, please send the male and female protagonists to the sect of all times as soon as possible. Aria's illness would definitely be cured after a course of treatment. Under the setback and stimulation of the soul, the missing memory would be restored. The annual cliché drama of brothers recognizing each other would be staged. Readers, please bring your own onions and tissues. However, Jun Changshao, who was standing in the monitoring room, said coldly, "It's useless to call him brother. Train him hard." Go Sheng thought that this guy was begging for mercy. "You hit my disciple. Just apologize. Why do you need the police? Torture. Torture with all your might. Sizzle. Z, 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 Z. Drops of wax splashed on Gu Zhaoxi's body. The pain of hurting the soul instantly shrouded his sense of perception. He couldn't form words to say his identity and could only howl in pain and misery. The first experience was worse than death. After experiencing it for the second time, the pain was even more intense than before. The reason was that Jun Changshao's cultivation was constantly improving, and Aria's training skills were becoming more and more proficient. For example, the wax dripping this time had undergone many improvements. It was absolutely guaranteed that the patient would feel good to the deepest part of their soul. ZZZ. Ah! Screams echoed throughout the prison. Zhao Daodu and Dai Lu sat on small stools and sipped their tea leisurely. The expression on their faces gradually changed, and they said, "This sound, it's so comfortable." Before he came in, Gu Zhaoxi was extremely arrogant, and fully displayed his fearless character. After 2 hours of torture, the shadow in his heart from his previous life gradually expanded. Me. He really wanted to live on. After another round of soul-destroying training, Gu Zhaoxi's eyelids suddenly rolled up, and his body twitched as he fainted. "Master." Aria stopped and said, "This guy has fainted. When he wakes up, continue to torture him." He had bullied Li Qingyang and Xiao Zuiji in the demonic mist forest, and in the end, he had been expelled from the sect. Since this young man dared to beat up a disciple in his own territory, he would definitely bring him eternal pain. Niu was ruthless, but Go Sheng was even more ruthless. Yes. Aria's eyes flashed with excitement. The quality of this new prisoner's soul was not bad. It was similar to the tattooed man who was sent here with handcuffs and shackles. Next, he could properly use the newly invented 36 forms of training. After Jun Changshao left the monitoring room, he came to the drizzle hall and asked, during this time, "Is there any news about Gu Zhaoxi?" "No." Li Luoqiu said, "It seems like he disappeared. Continue to look for him. Once you have any news, inform me immediately." "Yes." Li Luoqiu asked curiously, "Patriarch, why do you care so much about this traitor called Gu Zhaoxi? Because, Jun Changshao looked out of the window. His thoughts returned to the scene outside the Starry Sky Fortress more than 10 years ago. Sad tears gathered at the corners of his eyes. He said in a serious tone, "He is my life and death brother." The system complained, "You didn't kill him. This doesn't make sense." Ah ah. Ah ah ah. In the prison, Gu Zhaoxi, who had just woken up, was being trained again. The sound of a pig being slaughtered echoed throughout the prison, causing Pei Sili, who was on the first floor, to tremble. He howled in his heart, "Jun Patriarch, I was wrong. I won't trick you again." Because he had experienced Arya's torture, he could understand the pain of the victim. Every time he heard the sound of the whip and wax dripping, he felt as if he was there. What was this? That's right, psychological trauma. The 36 forms of training was too brutal, so there was no need to describe it. In short, in the following days, Gu Zhaoxi experienced nothing more than screaming, fainting, waking up, and screaming again. This method of not giving him a chance to breathe naturally made it difficult for him to prove his identity. He could only endure it over and over again, creating a strong fear of death. During this period, Jun Changshao would occasionally come over to take a look. However, he spent most of his time on the development of the faction and his own cultivation. Ding! Epic mission activated. A month later, when Jun Changshao walked out of the space-time arcane realm again, a notification sounded in his ears. He grinned and said, "After tireless efforts, have I finally reached the limit of the third transformation?" Bullshit. The system roared, "Most of it is still the experience talisman." Yes. During this period, Go Sheng had been working hard on his cultivation. However, the real reason why he had reached the limit of the third transformation and triggered the mission was because of the experience talisman. Therefore, it was not yet time to be eliminated or replaced. Swoosh! He pulled open the data panel and clicked on the mission details. Upper Realm Epic Mission, 3. Mission details: the higher-ups and disciples of the faction must complete the designated faction mission within 3 months. Mission training: 110 high-star missions, 22,100 medium-star missions, 126010000 low-star missions, 8 hall-exclusive missions. Mission failure: not completed within the specified time. Mission reward. After reading the introduction, Jun Changshao fell into a short silence and said, "It doesn't seem difficult." "It's not that difficult." The system said, "The key is that when Li Qingyang and the others went out for training, the demonic fog demon king was suddenly unsealed. This means that someone is secretly targeting the sect of all times. If you let the disciples do the mission now, I'm afraid they will encounter trouble." Jun Changshao frowned, anger flashing in his eyes. Since the demonic fog forest incident, he had ordered that other than the simple missions that were not too far away, other missions would be suspended for fear of being plotted against. Damn it! Go Sheng clenched his fist tightly and said, "The feeling of being targeted is really unpleasant." Even if he was unhappy, there was nothing he could do, because the other party was hiding in the dark and there was no way to find them. He could only be passive. Patriarch. At this moment, Zhao Daodu's telepathic voice rang in his ears, "Come to the pagoda of confinement quickly." On the first floor of the prison. Gu Zhaoxi was hung in the air in a U shape. His tattered clothes had traces of whipping and wax dripping on them. His whole face was so distorted that even his own mother would not be able to recognize him. 30 days of training had turned him into something that was neither human nor ghost. Daodu. Arya stood beside him, holding the soul-subduing whip in one hand and holding her chin in the other. She said, "Why does the tattoo on this guy's back look a little familiar?" Zhao Daodu observed carefully and said, "It is indeed very familiar." Gu Zhaoxi was still conscious, but the erosion of his soul made him unable to speak. He could only roar in his heart, "Why is your memory worse than mine?" Inform the patriarch. Okay. Not long after, Jun Changshao came to the monitoring room. Master, come and take a look. The tattoo on this guy's body looks a little familiar. Tattoo? Jun Changshao immediately narrowed his eyes and saw the strange tattoo on Gu Zhaoxi's back. He was stunned on the spot and blurted out, "Brother, it's you." Appearances could change. Tattoos could not change. Therefore, this was the best proof of identity. Hearing Jun Changshao shout, "Brother, it's you," Gu Zhaoxi could not control his emotions. Bean-sized tears flowed down his cheeks and he howled in his heart, "Which bastard bought me these clothes? I was tortured for a whole month before they were torn." Chapter 1446. Gu Zhaoxi revealed his tattoo and finally proved his identity. It had to be said that the quality of the clothes was really good. It had withstood 30 days of whipping before it was torn. If it was the same as Hall Master Z's, as the reader said, he would have to spend the rest of his life in prison. Area. Jun Changshao hurriedly said, "Untie him quickly." Whoosh! The rope was immediately loosened, and Gu Zhaoxi fell to the ground with a bang. His whole face was much more ferocious. "Brother!" Jun Changshao hurriedly ran over and then helped him up. He gave him the most sincere hug between men and said, "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Gu Zhaoxi almost vomited blood. He also wanted to say it, but he didn't give him a chance at all. "I remember now." Arya slapped her forehead and said, "This person is the tattooed man who wanted to die earlier." "Yes, yes." Zhao Daodu clapped and said, "I remember too." The two finally remembered the familiar tattoo, but it seemed a little late because Gu Zhaoxi had been tortured until he was neither human nor ghost. In the end, he fainted in Go Xing's arms. "Brother!" Jun Changshao cried out in grief. Rose of Flowers, who had just walked in, happened to see it. She thought to herself, "Why does my husband care so much about a man?" In the medical hall, Sun Bukong, who was dressed as a doctor, walked out of the room. He then took off his mask and shook his head helplessly. "He's dying." Jun Changshao, who was waiting outside, changed his expression greatly. Sun Bukong said, "His body and soul have suffered serious setbacks. Even if he is lucky enough to survive, it will be difficult for him to practice martial arts in the future. He might even fall into a deep sleep forever." This sentence was like a bolt from the blue, and Jun Changshao was stunned on the spot. It was not easy to reunite with his life and death brother. He originally thought that with his assistance, the sect would be like a tiger with wings, but in the end, he was in a vegetative state. "It's my fault. It's all my fault." Jun Changshao squatted down and held his head as he blamed himself. "I should have known that Shi Zhaoxi would be Gu Zhaoxi in reverse." Patriarch. Sun Bukong said, "You need to give up the treatment." A professional doctor would have to endure a great deal of pain to say this sentence because if he couldn't save the patient, that would be a sign of incompetence. Jun Changshao did not reply. Instead, he walked into the resuscitation room and looked at Gu Zhaoxi, who was lying on the bed with tubes inserted and an oxygen mask covering his mouth and nose. He sorrowfully said, "Brother, I'm sorry. Don't ask where the medical equipment came from. If you ask, it's from the system store." After a month of torture, Gu Zhaoxi fell into a deep coma. After thinking hard, Jun Changshao decided to pull out the oxygen tube. Because his brother had the spirit of reincarnation, he could be reborn after death. Hanging like this was more painful than death. "Brother." Jun Changshao sat in front of the bed and took out the green dragon crescent blade to peel the apple. He then placed it in front of the bedside table and said, "We have just met and we have to part again. I hope we can meet again in our next life." At this time, if Gu Zhaoxi could think and speak, he would definitely pull out the oxygen mask and roar, "Never see you again." Phew! Jun Changshao took a deep breath and wiped the tears on his cheeks with his palm. He stood up and turned his back to the bed. Do it. Sun Bukong put on the mask and walked to the bed. He reached out and took the large syringe that Li Tian handed to him. The inside of the syringe was filled with a thick dark liquid. This was the strongest poison developed by Miao Saifeng. It contained more than 3,000 kinds of toxins, so it was named 3,000 kills you. It could be seen that in order to kill Gu Zhaoxi, not only did he have to pull out the oxygen mask, but he also had to inject the poison. It could be said to be a double insurance, ensuring that he was completely cold and preventing him from dying. Patriarch. Sun Bukong raised the syringe. Is there anything else you want to say to him? Jun Changshao stood in front of the window with his back facing the bed. After trying to control his emotions, his body still trembled uncontrollably. Brother, we will still be brothers in life and death in our next life. Every time he met Go Sheng, he had to die. They were really brothers in life and death. It was better to have a short pain than a long pain. Jun Changshao took a deep breath and said with difficulty, carry out the punishment. The system, execute. Swoosh. Like Su Lai, Sun Bukong rushed over with the large syringe and stabbed it into Gu Zhaoxi's buttocks. Because his soul and body were at their weakest, the syringe easily penetrated. Huff huff. The lethal syringe quickly merged into the body. Ah! Ah! The unconscious Gu Zhaoxi suddenly screamed. Red spots appeared on his skin and gradually turned black. He looked extremely terrifying. Creak! Suddenly, Jiangye pushed the door open and shouted, Patriarch, since his soul is damaged, why don't you try using the 9 transformation spirit cleansing pill? That woke him up from his dream. Ding! Host spent 10,000 contribution points and obtained 9 transformation spirit cleansing pill X1. It has been transferred to the spatial ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 643800. Bang! Jun Changshao rushed over and kicked Sun Bukong, who was in the middle of injecting himself. The latter crashed into the wall of the resuscitation room and flew out of medical peak in an arc. It looked extremely beautiful from afar. Brother! I'm here to save you. Live, live! Jun Changshao took off the oxygen mask and pried open Gu Zhaoxi's mouth. He threw the 9 transformation spirit cleansing pill inside and closed it. He raised his fist and began to attack wildly. Under the violent attack, this brother's mouth caved in. The pill inside melted after contact with his saliva, forming wisps of energy that entered his body and quickly surged into his mind and into the deepest part of his soul. This method of feeding medicine could only be described as super hardcore. Huff, huff. The medicine took effect instantly. Gu Zhaoxi was enveloped in light. His damaged soul was repaired and he woke up from his coma. High energy alert ahead, please prepare onions and tissues. Ah! Ah! After Gu Zhaoxi's soul was repaired, he suddenly struggled out of the bed and rolled on the ground. He let out a blood-curdling scream. A large part of his skin was rotting, as if he would turn into a zombie at any time. That was right. His soul was repaired and he was no longer in a vegetative state. It was just that, the 3,000 poisons that want your life, was running rampant in his body. Hall Master Miao. Jun Changshao shouted, antidote. Antidote. Miao Saifeng, who was playing with a venomous snake outside the resuscitation room, shook her head and said, there's no antidote for this poison unless it's purified with the purest of energy. The purest of energy? Jun Changshao hurriedly called Xiaohua over and said, quick. Help him neutralize the poison in his body. Okay. Xiaohua first grabbed Gu Zhaoxi, who was rolling on the ground, and then brought him outside. Then, it quickly turned into flames and hugged him. Ah! Ah! Screams sounded throughout the entire sect. The disciples who heard it felt their scalps tingle. An hour later, Gu Zhaoxi lay on the ground. His hair and clothes were all burned away. From the charred martial arts arena, it was obvious that it had lasted for a long time. Puff! White foam came out of his mouth and his limbs twitched slightly. Patriarch Sun Bukong, whose head was wrapped in bandages, put his hand on Gu Zhaoxi's pulse and said happily, "His soul has recovered and the poison in his body has been neutralized. He'll recover after resting for a while." Phew! Jun Changshao was instantly relieved. A bright smile gradually appeared on his face. "I saved my brother's life again." Chapter 1447. Under Jun Changshao's efforts, Gu Zhaoxi finally came back to life. Then he lay on the bed with bandages all over his body. His eyes looking at the ceiling were full of emptiness and dullness. His soul was tortured for a month, eroded by 3,000 strong poisons, and burned by the purest and strongest flames. The whole process was worse than death. "Brother." Jun Changshao, who was sitting in front of the bed, wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and said, "It is indeed a happy thing that you survived the disaster and reunited with your brother. But you can't always cry." Gu Zhaoxi raised his hand weakly and pointed to the door. He said in a hoarse voice from his throat, "Let me be alone for a while. I want to be alone." "Who is Jingjing? God, please come and save me." Although Gu Zhaoxi had experienced a lot of torture, after all, he had a good foundation. He recovered after only half a month of recuperation. Because he didn't die, he didn't become stronger after his injury was healed. His fear of death was even stronger. Especially when he dreamed of Arya, he woke up from the dream and was sweating profusely. It tortured him like a nightmare for several days before he gradually got better. "Brother." One day, Jun Changshao specially held a banquet in his residence and said, "You and I have not seen each other for more than 10 years in the mortal world. Today, we must drink until we are drunk." "Okay." Gu Zhaoxi said straightforwardly. "Ah no." Jun Changshao said, "Sit down." "Yes." Yi Xingqian sat down, and a trace of pride flashed in his eyes. This time, he was ordered by the patriarch to entertain the guests. His only purpose was to let them drink to their heart's content. Jun Changshao held the wine and said, "Cheers for our reunion. Come." Gu Zhaoxi stood up, then raised his head and drank a bowl of wine. He praised, "Good wine. Brother, you are an expert." "Not bad, not bad. This disciple of mine is nicknamed the Supreme of the Way of Wine. You can take the opportunity to compete." "Oh." Surprise flashed across Gu Zhaoxi's eyes. Yi Xingqian stood up and coldly brought over a jar of wine. He said, "It's troublesome to use a bowl. Why don't we use a jar?" This, Gu Zhaoxi was suddenly put in a difficult position. "Of course." Yi Xingqian added, "You're a guest, so do as you please." As soon as he finished speaking, he raised the wine jug with a single hand and gulped it down in large mouthfuls, and his appearance was indescribably forthright and unrestrained. "Amazing!" Gu Zhaoxi exclaimed. Boom! He put down the wine jug. Yi Xingqian smirked as if to say, "I can't beat you in a fight, but how can I beat you in drinking?" "Ah no, you're getting carried away. Come." At this time, Gu Zhaoxi took a jar of wine from the side and gulped it down. Soon, he finished it all. Then, he placed 2 more jars on the table as if he had not had enough. Jun Changshao was dumbfounded. This was an entire jug of drunken dreams, and it had been improved by Lan Kong many times. Even the alcoholic demon couldn't withstand it. After drinking it, not only was his brother fine, he even looked more energetic. An expert. Yi Xingqian frowned. Boom! Boom! He placed the 2 jugs of wine on the table and said, "Come. Please. Gu Zhaoxi stepped on the chair with one foot and waved his hand to throw the two jugs into the air. The wine flowed together like a waterfall, and then he gulped it down. Yi Xingqian's expression suddenly became interesting. This was an expert. Half an hour later, Gu Zhaoxi walked out of the hall and adjusted his collar before he left. The camera shifted and looked inside. Niu was at the bottom of the table and had one hand on the empty jug. He spoke in a daze. I can still drink. I am not drunk. At the same location, Yuan Gongzi Koed Hall Master Bai, and Gu Zhaoxi Koed Yi Xingqian. Sigh. Jun Changshao walked out and shook his head. What a disgrace. He couldn't win in a fight or a drink. Niu was completely defeated. But he didn't admit defeat. He stood up with difficulty and walked down the Dragon Head Peak while mumbling, I am not drunk. I am not drunk. In the Grand Hall of the Spirit Beast Peak, the Purple King, who was discussing important matters, frowned and looked towards the door. He saw a staggering figure walking over. Not good. Elder Niu's expression changed. He is here. He is here again. Everyone on alert. No. Everyone on alert. After a round of drinking, Gu Zhaoxi finally walked out of his psychological shadow. But the next day, he hurriedly looked for Jun Changshao to talk business. Brother, do you have a grudge with Empress Ling Yao? Yes. Not to mention the incident with Yi Xingqian, she had taken care of him many times in the dimensional battlefield, so they could be considered enemies. I see. Gu Zhaoxi slapped his forehead. No wonder that woman asked me to be a spy in your sect. Spy? Jun Changshao asked, what do you mean? Gu Zhaoxi hurriedly told him about the agreement between him and Empress Ling Yao. He didn't care about the spirit of the agreement. He would definitely tell the truth and not hide anything. After all, they were sworn brothers. After knowing the whole story, Jun Changxiao's eyes gradually turned cold. Because the sect had a system restriction, he wasn't afraid of others sending spies. But Empress Ling Yao must have some sinister motives for doing so. Wait. This woman was from the Realm Hall, and the demonic fog forest was set up by the Realm Hall. Could the Demon King suddenly breaking the seal have something to do with her? The system said, the possibility is very high. I understand. Jun Changshao said. Empress Ling Yao has a grudge with Niu, so she took the opportunity to break the seal and get rid of him. Damn it. She is indeed a scheming woman. Brother. Jun Changshao asked, how do you communicate with each other? Gu Zhaoxi shook his head. She only asked me to join the sect of all times. That's simple. Jun Changshao fell silent. The system said, a scheming woman wouldn't tell your brother more. Who knows what new instructions she might have in the future. That's right. Jun Changshao rubbed his chin. Since she sent a spy, then let's do as she wishes. Brother. Are you willing to become a member of the sect of all times? Gu Zhaoxi was quite reluctant at first, but he had to come because of the agreement. Now that he had recovered his memory and knew that his brother was the one who built the sect, he had no objections. However, he said bitterly, brother, I'm a traitor. If I join your sect, I'll bring endless trouble. Jun Changshao put a hand on his shoulder. Brother, have you forgotten what I said in the 9 levels of hell? What he said? Gu Zhaoxi tried hard to recall, and suddenly realized. Yes, you're a traitor too. So, Jun Changshao said, join my sect. Let's work together and turn the upper realm upside down, so that the realm hall will never have a day of peace. Okay. Gu Zhaoxi said generously. Jun Changshao took out the entry form, went through the procedures, and stamped it. At this point, the sect of all times had another powerful member, and he was a brother of life and death. He could only wait and see what kind of trouble he would bring to the upper realm in the future. The next day, Jun Changshao called the disciples over and introduced Gu Zhaoxi in detail. It turned out that this young man was the brother of the patriarch. According to seniority, was it not, "Greetings, Masters Junior"? The disciples shouted in unison. When he was in the Iron Bone sect, the original owner had two senior brothers, but because they left the sect never had a Masters Junior. Gu Zhaoxi's arrival filled the gap in this aspect. In fact, the black and white Rakshasas were also considered senior brothers, but because they were guardians, the disciples usually addressed them respectfully by their positions. "Brother, what's your current strength?" 8 Transformation Dan. "That's good. The sect has many missions recently. I'll have to trouble you and the 2 guardians to help them complete them." "Okay." Chapter 1448. Gu Zhaoxi was definitely much stronger than the black and white Rakshasas at the 8 Transformation Dan stage, so this time, he had undoubtedly increased the strength of the sect of all times. Of course. How could a patriarch be left behind? So Jun Changshao asked this little brother to assist his disciple in completing the sect's mission, so that he could reach a higher level as soon as possible. The so-called assistance did not mean helping them complete the mission. After all, the disciple's mission required the disciple to complete it. Gu Zhaoxi could only be responsible for his safety, so that he would not be schemed against. Empress Ling Yao. Jun Changshao sat in his study, his fingers twirling a brush. "Since you dare to play tricks, if I don't return the favor, how can I survive in the future?" At first, Go Leftover wanted to develop his strength in a wretched manner. When he had enough cultivation and strength, he would settle the grudge between his disciple and that woman. Now that the other party had made a move first, he would definitely accompany her to the end. Hall Masterly Jun Changshao ordered, "Gather all information about Empress Ling Yao." Yes. Li Luoqiu hurriedly went to work. It was a little difficult for her to investigate Gu Zhaoxi. After all, he was someone who lived in the dark. Empress Ling Yao was different. After all, on the surface, even if she could not find the core information, she could at least gain something. Playing tricks. Jun Changshao walked out of the hall and looked into the distance. "I can do it too." It could be said that Gu Zhaoxi's arrival had officially opened the curtains to the battle between the shameless man and the scheming woman. In the dark forest, the 5 strongest disciples of the sect of all times walked in step by step. But when they saw the monsters on the ground and the blood flowing into a river, their expressions became interesting. "Hey!" Gu Zhaoxi sat on a mountain of corpses and took a bite of an apple. "I've taken care of these guys. I'll leave the mission target to you guys." Doing a mission was like going through a dungeon. They had to clear out the monsters. Now that he had taken care of them, it was like going straight to the dungeon boss. This was assistance. Wasn't it hardcore enough? Li Qingyang hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, Martial Uncle. Don't talk so much nonsense. Hurry up and get rid of that guy. I'm still waiting to go back and eat Lu Er's fried rice," Gu Zhaoxi said impatiently. The soul whipping, the corrosion of the poison, and the burning of the flames made him experience endless pain and fear of death. Lu Wancher's cooking also made him realize that living was such a happy thing. With the spirit of samsara, Gu Zhaoxi would become stronger every time he died, so he had never been afraid of death and had always wanted to seek it. But in just a few days after coming to the sect of all times, he had become infatuated with life and was even filled with confidence for the future. This really was Go Sheng, deception. With hardcore's help, Li Qingyang and the others did not need to fight the small monsters. So, they went straight to the boss area and killed it. Then, they returned to the sect to turn in the quest. Ding! Disciples Lu Qianqian and Li Qingyang have completed the sect quest and received 100 contribution points, 100 achievement points, and 10 reputation points. After hearing the notification, a smile appeared on Jun Changxiao's face. With Gu Zhaoxi in charge of all aspects of protection, the disciples were very safe doing the high-star quests. So, this epic quest was not too difficult. It just took a bit of time. Can I break through to the 5th class advancement? Considering the fact that he had jumped from the 1st class advancement to the 3rd class advancement, Jun Changxiao really wanted to jump levels again. That way, breaking through to the 9th class advancement would be just around the corner. Don't be silent. Come, hurry up and heal me. The system was forced to say, host, you're thinking too much. With the help of Gu Zhaoxi and Black and White Rakshasa, the disciples really did not have any difficulty doing the quests. So, their completion rate kept increasing and they reached the goal in just a month. However, the epic quest would only be completed after 3 months. Okay. Jun Changxiao said helplessly, you're just as bad as always. Although the requirements for the epic quest had been met, the Sect's quests were refreshed every once in a while. The disciples still continued to do them. After all, they would be rewarded with contribution points and achievement points. During this period, the first thing Jun Changxiao did every day was to go to the Drizzle Hall and ask about Empress Lingyao. Patriarch Li Luoqiu said, this woman is not simple. How is she not simple? It has only been a few thousand years since she ascended from the falling star continent. Not only did she break through to the 9th class advancement, but she also became a member of the Realm Hall. Is it that fast to break through to the 9th class advancement in a few thousand years? Jun Changxiao, who had leveled up through cheating, had never felt that it was difficult to break through. He even thought that if the bomb was set to explode in 1,000 years, he could definitely surpass his master and become the supreme ruler. Li Luoqiu said, according to the information I received, Empress Lingyao disappeared for a period of time after ascending to the upper realm. When she reappeared, she was already at the 9th class of the Dan transformation stage. The interval was only 100 years. Oh! Jun Changxiao's eyes flashed with surprise. Breaking through to the 9th class in a few thousand years was not something to brag about. However, if it was only 100 years, it was a little impressive. The reason? No one knows. Jun Changxiao put his fingers together and said, could it be that she had a fortuitous encounter? That's not the point. Li Luoqiu said seriously, the point is, someone without any background actually holds a position in the Realm Hall. Yes. Jun Changxiao said, this woman is not simple. There were many strong martial artists in the upper realm, but those who could enter the Realm Hall could be counted on one hand. It was a little unbelievable that someone from the lower realm could hold a position there. Where does that woman live? Lingyao Wonderland. Damn! Jun Changxiao's eyes widened and said, this woman has her own small independent world. Ever since the friendly visit from the 10,000 races, Go Sheng had a rough understanding that there were many small independent worlds in the upper realm. The highest standard was the domain, followed by the realm. If there was a difference, it would be that a domain could hold an entire race, while a realm could hold a city at most. Although it was a little small. However, there were only a few martial artists in the upper realm who were qualified to obtain a realm. For example, Jinren Tonggu, his status and strength were very high, but the extreme cave abode he lived in was just classified as a paradise. Patriarch Li Luoqiu said, this Empress Lingyao, there must be someone behind her. To be able to break through in such a short time, enter the Realm Hall, and even have an independent realm, who would believe that she does not have a big backer? Jun Changxiao said. So. Li Luoqiu said, this woman is very dangerous, you must be careful when you fight with her, or you will easily be tricked. Very dangerous? Jun Changxiao rubbed his nose and smiled confidently. More dangerous than me? Thinking of all the things this guy had done along the way, Li Luoqiu answered, I don't know if the Patriarch is dangerous, but I know that whoever provokes the Patriarch will be in danger. There was nothing wrong with that. Where is the Lingya Wonderland? Jun Changshao asked. Now that he knew the woman's home address, he would definitely pay her a visit if he had the chance. After all, as a Huasyan, it was impolite not to reciprocate. Northwest. Jun Changshao was speechless. His home was southeast, and hers was northwest. It was a little far. The system said, "Host, are you planning to fall out with Empress Lingyao now?" What else? The other party had started to send spies. If he did not fight back, would he still be a man? The difference in strength is too great, you can't win at all. The system said. Jun Changshao nodded and said, "Please, to deal with an enemy like this, I must rely on my intelligence." "Do you have that, host?" Scram. Jun Changshao could not be bothered with it, then leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes to think. He said to himself, "If only I had another soul bomb, I could throw it directly into the Lingya Wonderland." Hee hee. The system said, "This is intelligence suppression." Chapter 1449. The number of missions set by Shi in the upper realm had been completed, but because there was a settlement date, Jun Changshao could only wait while thinking about how to scheme against Empress Lingyao. New missions were refreshed at fixed intervals, and the disciples continued to do them alone or in groups while they were cultivating. After all, they would be rewarded after completion. Patriarch Li Qingyang said, "The martial arts resources in the vending machine can no longer bring benefits to the disciples. Sect missions were actually disciples' missions, and after completion, they would be rewarded with corresponding contribution points to purchase items in the personal store. However, since they had not been upgraded after coming to the upper realm, they were almost non-existent." "No rush, no rush." Jun Changshao said, "Let everyone save their contribution points first. When the version is upgraded, it will definitely come in handy." Because the disciple store had not been upgraded, he could only let everyone save their contribution points first, and when the version was upgraded, they could squander them as much as they wanted. "Stupid author, hurry up and upgrade it." "Sorry." The system said, "The disciple store requires the host to spend contribution points, achievement points, or reputation points to upgrade." Jun Changshao roared, "Does this upper realm system have a function that doesn't cost money?" "Yes, it will be refreshed 5 times a month for free." The disciple store was still in the lower realm, and the items sold there could not keep up with the times. The new pills were not fully provided, so the only way was to upgrade it. With the new upper realm system, it was really difficult to do anything without money. However, the only fortunate thing was that the disciple store could be upgraded with achievement points, and there was no need to use contribution points or reputation points. Sigh. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "I thought achievement points were worthless, but it turns out that they were waiting for this." The system said, "To be exact, the upper realm system pays more attention to sect missions, not only to the purchase of goods after completion, but also to let them participate in the construction of the sect, and then benefit themselves." That makes sense. In the lower realm, when sect missions appeared, it was nothing more than earning achievement points to upgrade the sect, and thus gain more functions. However, the activation condition had to be full, so the disciples had a long blank period. Now that the new sect missions would be refreshed at a fixed time, it seemed to mean that they would never be completed. This undoubtedly required the disciples to work hard at all times, and then accumulate more achievement points. In the lower realm, a sect might be able to rely on cheats to carry it forward, but in the upper realm, everyone would need to work together. How much does it cost to upgrade the disciples' store? 10 million. Jun Changshao face-bombed and said, "The achievement value and contribution value systems have both collapsed." The system said, "If the host thinks it's too much, you can use 10,000 reputation points instead." Scram! Jun Changshao roared. Because the disciples' merchant shop required achievement points to level up, Jun Changshao ordered that as long as they had time, they must complete missions. He even considered whether or not to set a monthly mission completion quota. "What are you thinking about?" Rows of flowers came in from outside. Jun Changshao came back to his senses. Just as he was about to speak, he heard her say, "I knocked on the door, but you didn't hear me." "All right then." Gou Sheng had no choice but to swallow the words, "Why didn't you knock before coming in?" and said, "I was thinking about whether or not I should let my disciples complete enough missions every month." "Has my husband finally figured it out?" "Figured what out?" Jun Changshao was dumbfounded. Rows of Flowers said, "During my time in the sect of all times, I didn't feel like a sect, but more like a big family." "That's right." Jun Changshao said proudly, "That's what I'm happy to see." Whether it was the former Iron Bone or the current sect of all times, he had never treated it as a force. He had always treated it as a family. He was the parent, and his disciples were the children. He would take care of them as they grew up. Rows of Flowers said, "In this cruel world, disciples need to adapt to the harsh environment, and have the courage to spread their wings and soar into the sky. They shouldn't always stay at home and live a life of being fed." "What are you trying to say?" Jun Changshao frowned and said. Rows of Flowers walked over and said, "Are you interested in learning about my past?" "Not interested." Jun Changshao said. "You don't mean what you say." Rows of Flowers took another step forward. Regardless of whether the other party agreed or not, she directly used the soul race's secret technique to fuse with him. "It's coming, it's coming." Lord Rose. This time, the two of them fused. Jun Changxiao's hair did not turn green. Instead, his soul seemed to pass through layers of space and was placed in a dark place similar to a cliff. There were many children about 10 years old fighting with all their might inside. They were not strong, but they fought very crazily. There was a high platform in the central area with a lot of food placed on it, indicating that only those who rushed over could get it. Jun Changshao turned into a soul and stood where he was, watching as a bystander. Until he found a girl with disheveled hair in a corner. Although she was not tall and still had a childishness, she looked very similar to Rows of Flowers. So, he blurted out, "Her daughter. That's when I was young." Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, "You brought me to your childhood memories." "Yes." Jun Changxiao was speechless. "If you want to play memory killing, why do you have to bring me along?" The system said, "This chapter is going to be lame again." Jun Changxiao kept staring at the young Rows of Flowers who seemed to be isolated from the rest of the world. He said, "It feels like there is not much difference between childhood and adulthood." Boom! Boom! The teenagers had gone crazy for the food. They fought for a long time inside and only stopped when they were exhausted. "Is there still no winner?" A cold voice came from above. "Then we can only wait for tomorrow." Whoosh! The food on the stone platform disappeared into thin air. Then, the memory fast-forwarded. Jun Changxiao was still standing in the same place. The teenagers were fighting in the dark place. Although some of them occasionally got food, most of them were starving. "It's too cruel. If we can't survive here, how can we face the crueler reality?" "Okay." Jun Changxiao said, "Why do you keep standing in the corner?" "Because I'm not hungry." This reason made Gou Sheng unable to refute. However, after a few more battles, the young Rows of Flowers finally made a move. Although she was one of the few girls in the experience, she was more ruthless than boys of the same age. She could easily poke the eyes, kick the crotch, and other means. Gou Sheng felt a chill down his spine. He said to himself, "I have to be careful, lest she plot against me." Because the young Rows of Flowers was extremely strong, she won the final victory in the fight for food. Next. The memory fast-forwarded again. As long as she participated in the battle, it would end in victory. Whoosh! In order not to use memory killing to make up the number of words, the rows of flowers separated from Jun Changxiao's body. The latter immediately returned to reality. After a short silence, he asked, "How long have you been there?" "A year." "What if you can't get food?" "Die." Jun Changxiao fell into a short silence again. Then, he turned to look at her and said, "You asked me to look at your memories. Are you telling me that people have to experience cruel torture to live in this world? Natural selection, the survival of the fittest. This is an eternal law. Husband, you care too much about your disciples. You're worried that they will encounter danger. But if they don't experience wind and rain, how can they grow up in the upper realm? You just asked me if I want my disciples to complete a certain number of tasks every month. I believe that after looking at my childhood memories, you should already have the answer in your heart." "I have," Jun Changxiao said seriously. A smile appeared on the rows of flowers' face. "However," Jun Changxiao paused and said, "I won't train my disciples in the way you soul race do, because it's not only in desperate situations that they can really grow up. In fact, there are many gentle ways to achieve the same effect." The rose of flowers said, "I'm just letting my husband refer to it." After saying that, she turned and left. "Wait a minute." Jun Changxiao stopped her. After pausing for a long time, he said, "Actually, you were quite cute when you were young." The rose of flowers was stunned at the door. After a while, she looked back and said with a smile, "Husband, are you praising me?" "Where was he? Where was he?" Jun Changxiao had disappeared from the study. He was in the hall, covering his red face and roaring in his heart, "How could I say such shameful words?" Chapter 1450. Because she had experienced things that others had never experienced in her childhood, she became the Rose Queen who fought everywhere. The disciples of the sect of all times were the opposite. They had never experienced the experience of killing for food. They were lucky enough to join the sect of all times before and after they came into contact with martial arts. They could enjoy all kinds of martial arts resources and even become a family. Rose of Flowers was very envious, but she also knew that if they were always under her husband's protection, they would be a group of children who had never experienced wind and rain. They would not dare to spread their wings and soar in the sky alone. How could Jun Changxiao not understand this woman's intentions? However, the sect of all times would not be like the soul race. In order to become stronger, or even to become cruel, they had to undergo inhuman training. It was not that Go Sheng spoiled his disciples too much, but it was also possible to change the situation. For example, in the life and death secret realm, although failure would not lead to death, the experience could still be achieved. Moreover, that woman's real intention was to let him understand that in order to survive in this cruel world, everyone had to work hard. Pass down the order. Jun Changxiao said, "The outer sect disciples must complete 10 low-star missions, the inner sect disciples must complete 5 mid-star missions, and the core disciples must complete 1 high-star mission." Yes. Old Gu, who was in charge of the mission pavilion, immediately went to work. After the news spread throughout the sect, the disciples would do missions throughout their entire martial arts career. In the past, it was almost Jun Changxiao who carried the sect alone. When they devoted themselves to the sect's missions, it was equivalent to everyone carrying the sect together. Go Sheng was no longer alone. Behind him, there were 100,000 disciples. What a pity. The system complained, the host does not have a higher life and death secret realm for the disciples to experience more cruel training. Jun Changxiao said indifferently, as long as they can complete the sect's missions on time, they will accumulate more contribution points over time. When the time comes, what can't they farm? What can't they buy? Heh. The system said, your wife even enlightened you. At the mention of Rose of Flowers, Gosheng thought of the childhood memories he had seen earlier. He thought to himself, is this her childhood trauma? If this is a childhood trauma, as her husband, shouldn't you go and make up for the trauma in her heart and give her a brighter and better future? The system said. Jun Changshao fell silent. Don't walk further and further down the path of being a scumbag. Men should be responsible, the system said again. Fuck. Jun Changshao said, do you think your elder way? Dark night. Rows of flowers leaned against the window and looked up at the bright starry sky. Her thoughts returned to the memories of her childhood in the land of darkness. Jun Changshao had only seen a small portion of them. He did not even know that the youths who were competing for food were actually from the same clan. Many of them were related by blood. In order to survive, they had to fight. The next day, after washing up, Rose of Flowers pushed the door open and walked out. As a result, she saw a bouquet of roses at her feet. Her expression was suddenly stunned. What do you mean? She looked up and asked. Jun Changshao, who was lying on the side room, said lazily, I saw that when you were young, you used your body to protect a rose that grew in a crack in the stone. I thought you liked it very much, so I just catered to your interests. There's no other meaning. You even noticed such a small detail. Rose of Flowers laughed. Swoosh. Jun Changshao jumped down from the roof, then put his hands in his trouser pockets and strode away. Jun Changshao. Rose of Flowers shouted, you're a patriarch. Giving me one flower is too stingy. TSK Jun Changshao curled his lips and said, do you want me to plant a courtyard of roses for you? That works too. In your dreams. That day, Sun Bukong led his members to search the medical hall. As a result, after searching for half a day, they still could not find the rose seed. In the end, they could only ask the people of the Drizzle Hall to buy it outside. Because of the Patriarch's order, the disciples were more active in doing missions. So, every day, there were people accepting and completing missions. Everyone picked up firewood and made a big fire. Contribution points and achievement points also slowly increased. Ding! The medical hall has successfully planted 5 million purple phoenix glazed jade grass. Hall exclusive missions have been completed. 1,000 contribution points, 1,000 achievement points, 100 reputation points. Damn! Jun Changshao said in surprise, the rewards are high. It was high, but the hall exclusive missions that appeared on the mission board were limited. It was destined to be difficult to do them every day. However, in the past month, the disciples had completed many missions. Almost everyone had done them. The contribution points and achievement points obtained were about 1 million. 1 million a month, 10 million a year. Jun Changshao counted with his fingers and almost fainted from happiness. The system broke down and said, why do I feel like there's something wrong with the host's mathematics? Creak. 2 months later, Rose of Flowers opened the door and walked out. The roses planted around were in full bloom. The breeze blew and the fragrance of the flowers filled the air. It could be said to be intoxicating. She liked this plant. He had planted it all over the courtyard. What was this? That's right, a typical extravagance and waste. Fortunately, Yuan Gongzi was running the elixir store in Lin Yuan City. Otherwise, he would definitely record it in the accounts. The Patriarch did not hesitate to use a lot of manpower and material resources to win his wife's favor. Jun Changshao, who was standing at the entrance of the courtyard, said, are you satisfied now? Rose of Flowers said, why are you suddenly so good to me? Because you are a member of the sect of all times. As the Patriarch, I must give you a bright future. This is called responsibility, this is called responsibility. Jun Changshao said. The system broke down and said, some words come out of his mouth. Why do they sound so straightforward? Pfft. Rose of Flowers covered her mouth and laughed, saying, so childish. Damn. He did not hesitate to use the nourishing soil and let Paige help to plant a courtyard of roses for her. She actually said that he was childish. Good intentions were treated as ill intent. But Rose of Flowers walked over and said with a smile, "I like it very much." She was a bit shorter than June Changshao, so she looked very petite in front of him. "Can I hug you?" Ding! Epic mission completed, entering the settlement period. Ding! The upper echelons and disciples of the sect must complete the designated sect mission within 3 months and meet the defined conditions. Epic mission completed, completion rate 500%. The host will receive 2 million contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 564,000. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing Epic Mission 3 of the Upper Realm version. The host has received the right to purchase the high-grade Life and Death Secret Realm X1, the right to purchase the 4 pieces of Bahuang Tianyin X1, the upgrade of the Sex Function X1, and the modification stone of Unstoppable Blade X1. A series of notifications rang in his ears, and June Changshao was stunned on the spot. The epic mission had reached the target a month ago, but the disciples and the various halls were still doing it. Therefore, the hidden completion rate kept increasing, and the final settlement was as high as 500%. This was definitely a new record for an epic mission. But, Sure Air was given 1 million for 200% completion, and Sure Air was given 2 million for 500% completion. The system explained, there must be a numerical limit in this aspect to prevent the host from using the bug to crazily earn points. June Changxiao's face fell. Wait a minute. Why is Rose of Flowers in my arms? She actually dared to take advantage of me when I was distracted. June Changxiao was about to push her away when a surge of power suddenly erupted from his body. The 2 energy cores in his dantian rapidly underwent a huge change, and an endless amount of power enveloped his body, making him feel a little lightheaded. Ding! The host has successfully broken through to the 4th transformation core realm. Ding! The host has successfully broken through to the 5th transformation core realm. Ding! The host has successfully broken through to the 6th transformation core realm. Fuck! The readers who were present at the scene exclaimed in unison, the system's poisonous milk just now was really huge. Chapter 1451. After completing the epic quest, June Changxiao jumped 3 levels and stepped into the 6th transformation core realm, reaching the peak of the spirit transformation stage. He was only 1 step away from the soul reincarnation stage. Of course, it wasn't because of the system, but mainly because the completion rate was as high as 500%. If it had been a little longer and the disciples continued to do it, the jump in realms would have been even more terrifying. After breaking through to the 6th transformation stage, June Changxiao looked inside his body and found that the 2 true nuclei were more substantial than before. The surface was outlined with complex patterns, and the energy source was more explosive. This is the power of true spirit. The system said. After entering the core realm, a martial artist's spiritual energy would be upgraded to true energy. After entering the 4th transformation stage, it would transform into true spirit again. Not only would it contain powerful energy, but it would also control a higher level of the laws of heaven and earth. Comfortable. June Changxiao said with his eyes closed. You broke through again. Rose of Flowers looked up, her eyes full of surprise. Previously, when June Changxiao completed Sure Air's quest and broke through, she was there, and she was very close because she had just bitten his arm. Now that he broke through again, she was also there, closer than last time because she was already in his arms. The system couldn't help but sigh, every time the host breaks through, his wife is by his side. This is probably fate. I forgot. That woman is still taking advantage of me. June Changxiao gradually calmed down from his excitement, then said with a cold face, Are you done hugging me? Rows of flowers pressed against his chest and smiled happily. Hugging you for a lifetime is not enough. Jun Changshao wanted to push her away, but after raising his hand, he didn't move. Forget it, forget it. Breaking through 3 levels in a row, I'm in a good mood, let her take advantage of me. Hug me. No. Hug me. No. Although Jun Changshao said so, his hands were showing signs of action. Enlightened, enlightened. The system said. Shua. At this moment, Gu Zhaoxi flew up to the dragon head peak and landed in the courtyard, with a face full of excitement. Brother, you broke through. Jun Changshao looked at him. Rows of flowers looked at him. The corner of Gu Zhaoxi's mouth twitched when he saw the two of them hugging each other. Then, he stiffly turned around and walked out with a blank look on his face. He muttered, "Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing?" Shua. Jun Changshao hurriedly pushed rows of flowers away, and then returned to his residence in embarrassment. Rows of flowers watched the guy leave in a panic. Although she was a little disappointed, a charming smile still appeared on her face. Her husband had changed a lot from being cold at the beginning to not rejecting her. Who? Jun Changshao, who had returned to his residence, leaned against the door. His entire face was flushed red. He subconsciously looked at his hands and said to himself, the power of the readers is too strong. I can't control myself. Well done, the system said. Jun Changxiao's rise in cultivation level created a great atmosphere, but the disciples were only happy and not excited. This was because the patriarch's breakthrough was something they had long since become accustomed to. However, this was the first time Gu Zhaoxi had seen it. Especially those who had continuously improved, he was dumbfounded on the spot. Brother! How many rounds did you advance? 3 rounds. Gu Zhaoxi raised his thumb, and said with a voice that was close to breaking, awesome. With the samsara spirit, it was true that one would become stronger each time they died, but after being reborn, they would have to start all over again. The only difference was that the process would be a bit faster. As for skipping levels in the revolving core realm, and skipping 3 levels at that, he had never heard of or seen such a thing before. Brother! Jun Changshao patted his shoulder, and said, as long as you follow me, you will be able to do it in the future. I can also skip a level. Gu Zhaoxi's eyes lit up. Jun Changshao said confidently, not to mention skipping a level, even skipping to the truth realm is not a problem. Brother! Gu Zhaoxi said, little brother will follow you from now on. So, you still need to help the disciples complete the sect's missions. No problem, leave it to me. The system was speechless. This guy doesn't seem to have any IQ. If he is sold by the host one day, he will probably have to help count the money. Don't talk about him. Jun Changshao put his legs on the table and said, I'm just asking if your face hurts. The system fell silent. Previously, Go Xing hoped that he could skip another level, but it said that he was thinking too much. In the end, he jumped 1 level higher than sure air. Later on, after reading Rows of Flowers' childhood memories, Jun Changshao hoped that he could use the life and death secret realm to replace it. It said that it was a pity that the host did not have a higher level, but in the end, the mission was completed and one was given. This slap to the face was resounding. Sorry. After a while, the system said proudly, I don't have a face, it doesn't hurt. Jun Changshao could not be bothered with him. He then opened the shopping list and clicked on the high-grade life and death secret realm. This was no different from what he bought in the lower realm. It was nothing more than an increase in overall strength, allowing the disciples to better use it for actual combat experience. As for the price, it was 500,000. 3 months ago, Go Xing might have seriously considered whether to buy it or not, because he was indeed a little poor at that time. Now that he had more than 5 million contribution points, there was no need to think about it at all. Ding! The host has spent 500,000 contribution points and obtained a high-grade life and death secret realm X1. It has been transferred into the spatial ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 514,000. Sigh. Jun Changshao sighed with emotion. The life of the rich is so dull and tasteless. After buying the high-grade life and death secret realm, he set his sights on the 4 pieces of 8 desolate heavenly melody set. These were 4 equipment type formulas, including armor, boots, helmet, and wrist guard respectively. The total price was 2 million contribution points. This is too expensive. The set has attribute support. You can't lose out or be cheated by buying it. Alright. Jun Changshao still reluctantly spent 2 million to buy it. In fact, after coming to the upper realm, the disciples had not changed their equipment. The 8 desolate heavenly melody set was just right to replace the outdated True Yang set. I have the equipment. Jun Changshao said to himself, only the weapon is missing. As he said that, he had already entered the spatial ring and held the crystal stone used to modify hard-to-keep blade in his hand. He said to himself, the mission gave me a modification stone. Could it be that the third form of hard-to-keep blade is no longer suitable for the upper realm? It's hard to say. The system said, after all, the host has not used this trump card since coming to the upper realm. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, using hard-to-keep blade means that I will face a very dangerous situation. Therefore, I prefer to keep it sealed in the spatial ring. The host has really changed. The system sighed, you are no longer as reckless as before. Hard-to-keep blade was one of Jun Changxiao's greatest trump cards. In the past, he had used this item to court death in the lower realm and the dimensional battlefield. Now that he had come to the upper realm, he had not used it. Although Jinren Tonggu's protection was the reason why no one dared to look for trouble, in fact, it was also because he did not take the initiative to provoke trouble. This is not a change. Jun Changshao said, this is growth. As he said that, he took out the reward of upgrading the sect function. After a short consideration, he finally chose the spirit pavilion that he had neglected for a long time. Ding! The Spirit Pavilion has been successfully upgraded to an enhanced version of the Spirit Pavilion. The new version of the Spirit Pavilion still retained the attributes of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth from the lower realm. At the same time, it was also expanded. For example, the metal element had branches such as dark gold, tempered gold, and so on. The biggest change was that it could be embedded into equipment, even including exclusive heavenly weapons. Jun Changshao said heroically, with a higher training ground and equipment with various special effects, sooner or later, I will make the entire upper realm kneel at the foot of the sect of all times. Chapter 1452. The 8 desolate heavenly melody set was just a recipe, so it still needed to be refined to know how powerful it was. Jun Changshao lacked herbs for refining pills, but he did not lack ores. After all, he had obtained quite a lot of ores from destroying the Fuqian sect and the demonic mist forest. He could use them to refine 2 or 3 sets. Ding! Ding! In just 10 minutes, the 8 desolate heavenly melody set appeared in the spatial ring. In terms of form, it looked similar to the True Yang set, but in terms of craftsmanship, it was obviously several grades higher. Especially the breastplate, knee cover, and wrist guard had special patterns. Creak. Jun Changshao pushed open the door. Wearing armor and a bright red cloak, he walked out with 8 steps. Under the contrast of the set, he could be said to be handsome to a whole new level. Coincidentally, Rose of Flowers walked in and was about to report the recent internal affairs of the sect. Seeing him wearing a bright and mighty set of armor, she could not help but stop. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of astonishment. How is it? Jun Changshao stepped on the stone bench with 1 foot, 2 fingers pointed to the sky, and put on a coquettish posture. Rose of Flowers said, hair is too much of a hindrance. Swoosh. Taking out a shiny razor, she smiled sweetly and said, how about I shave it all? Jun Changshao broke down. This woman was too infatuated with baldness. The system said, actually, it shows that even if the host becomes bald, he still has an unstoppable charm. That makes sense. So, shave it. Scram. The 8 desolate heavenly melody set was not bad, but the purpose of the equipment was to protect and not to be used for viewing. So, how strong the effect was needed to be tested. How to test? Very simple. Call Li Qingyang and Yi Xingchen, one wearing the set and the other not, to verify it. Main Peak, Martial Arts Practice Field. The disciples gathered outside and discussed softly. Ta. At this moment, Yi Xingchen walked up. Li Qingyang was also here, and he was wearing the 8 desolate heavenly melody set. He could be said to be extraordinarily handsome and imposing. Let's begin. Jun Changshao, who was standing in front of the main hall, said loudly. Junior brother. Li Qingyang cupped his hands and said, please. Shua. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Xingchen rushed over. He could really gather the energy in his fist and use the heaven-crossing palm print. Boom. 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 A short while later, Nyo was put down on the ground. His expression was sluggish. Apart from Hiwudi, his strength was the most outstanding among the core disciples. He had no problem fighting against second senior brother, but in the end, he was defeated after a dozen moves. This was simply too humiliating. Patriarch. Li Qingyang said excitedly, the amplification effect is much stronger than the true yang set. He was still operating his true energy. The patterns on his breastplate, knee cover, and wrist guard flickered with resplendent light and emitted an extremely desolate aura. This was one of the functions of the 8 barren heavenly sound set. As long as it merged with the user's true energy, it would greatly increase the user's strength in all aspects. In the battle just now, Li Qingyang's strength, speed, and defense were all above Yi Xingchen. Therefore, the latter was not upset at all when he was defeated after a dozen moves. However, there were disadvantages. Under the high explosive power, the consumption was also high. After a short fight, Li Qingyang clearly felt that the energy of his true core was greatly depleted. It's still acceptable, Jun Changshao said. Battles were often decided in an instant. If a disciple was equipped with this kind of equipment that could instantly increase his combat power by 50%, he would undoubtedly have a greater advantage against the enemy. Ah no. Jun Changshao walked down and said, I have another set here. Do you want it? Yi Xingchen, who was squatting on the stairs dejectedly, hurriedly raised his head and said without hesitation, yes. The text effect could transform him into an unparalleled god of war, but after all, it was a trump card and could not be used all the time. Therefore, he would not dislike the 8 barren heavenly sound set that increased his strength. As for the pride that was hurt just now, it did not matter anymore. If he could become stronger, he would even lie on the ground and let you trample on him. The appearance of the 8 barren heavenly sound set could be used to replace the true yang set. However, the problem was that there was a serious shortage of ores. Therefore, Jun Changshao sent a letter to Yuan Gongzi on the same day, asking him to purchase more materials in this area. The family that deals in herbs should also deal in ores, right? Yuan Feng thought for a moment and immediately contacted them and set up a banquet at a high-end restaurant. When the family that cooperated with the elixir store received the news, they wanted to cry but had no tears because if they continued to trade ores with him, they would definitely be haggled. Boom! At the back of the mountain, Jun Changshao set up the high-grade life and death secret realm and said loudly, from today onwards, you will have a new place to train. The eyes of the disciples burned with passion. However, Jun Changshao added, this secret realm is more advanced than the previous one. It is also divided into several modes. You must do your best. Yes. On the same day, Li Qingyang organized the disciples to explore. They chose the easy mode. Although they passed it in the end, they were all exhausted when they came out. Brother. Gu Zhaoxi was interested and said, "Can I go into train?" Yes. Shua. He flew in and entered the secret realm. After a while, a loud voice resounded in the entire sect of all times, Gu Zhaoxi challenges the hell mode. Damn! Martial uncle is so fierce. Junior brother Yi also challenged the hell mode in the past. Xiao, just as the disciples were discussing, Gu Zhaoxi flew out of the whirlpool of the secret realm and then lay on the ground like a pile of mud, his legs twitching occasionally. Sigh. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "Take him to the medical hall." Woo-woo. Woo-woo. In a barren area, the cold wind blew like the cries of ghosts. Ta. Ta. After a while, a short martial artist in a black robe walked out. Because of the sky and angle, it was difficult to see his face clearly. Disciple. In the sky, a figure condensed and said, "How is your cultivation?" The black-robed martial artist stopped and said, "Master, I have entered the 5th revolution of Dan realm." Ha ha ha. The figure laughed loudly and said, "When this old man brought you here, you had only just stepped into the half-step martial saint realm. In just a few short years, you've reached the 5th transformation stage. As expected of the child of the dimension. This kind of breakthrough speed is truly unprecedented and will never be surpassed. If Master did not help me awaken my bloodline, I might not have achieved what I have today." The black-robed martial artist said. So. The figure said in a deep voice, "You have to win the 10-year agreement with Old Tong no matter what. Do not disappoint Master." Plop. The black-robed martial artist knelt on the ground and said, "I will do my best." Who? A gust of wind blew and helped him up. Disciple. The figure said, "Remember, after a person is born, their knees are only used to kneel to their parents." Yes. Let's go. Follow Master to the 10,000-foot cliff to continue cultivating. Extreme Cave Abode. After Masato Kitano put down a chess piece, he said, "I heard that Gu Hongzhenren's disciple came from the lower realm and is the son of the plane. I am afraid the 10-year agreement is not good for you." Humph, Zhenren Tonggu said in disdain, "The lower realm is full of sand. Just pick one and you will be the son of the plane." Even so. Reverend Qi said, "But you cannot deny that Reverend Lone Swan is more outstanding than you when it comes to grooming disciples. Perhaps an ordinary child of the plane will be groomed into a top-notch expert in just 10 years. You think I will lose? You call me over to play chess all day and don't focus on nurturing disciples. I can't imagine how you will win. Don't mention that guy. I can't teach him." When he thought about how he could not even break through to the second transformation after training Jun Changshao for 2 years, Zhenren Tonggu was furious. He said in frustration, "Taking this kid as my disciple is the one thing I regret the most." Chapter 1453. Sect of All Times, Dragon Spine Peak. Gu Zhaoxi sat cross-legged on his bed with a serious expression on his face. He was in a dilemma. Which martial art should he cultivate first? At this moment, there were many secret manuals placed beside him. There was the 7 Mysterious Sunglow Break, the Radiant Heart Illumination Sutra, the Heaven Crossing Palm Print, and the Major Thousands Shadow Clone Art. Previously, because he had to assist the disciples in their missions, he did not have the chance to learn the sect's martial arts. Now that Jun Changshao had a breakthrough, he finally had some free time to instruct the disciples to do their missions appropriately. Pick whatever you want. Gu Zhaoxi closed his eyes and chose the 7 Mysterious Sunglow Break. It seems very ordinary. He picked up the remnant scroll and began to study it. He gradually became engrossed in it. Damn! After an hour, Gu Zhaoxi said in shock, this martial art is quite powerful. A few days later, he comprehended all 7 remnant scrolls. He stood on the peak and gathered 7 colored light with 2 fingers. He pointed it out of the mountain and dragged out a dazzling 7-colored light beam. Li Qingyang and the others raised their heads and looked at the light beam across the sky. They were shocked. 7 mysterious sunglow break. They had already cultivated this martial art in the lower realm. However, they rarely used it after coming to the upper realm because it was replaced by the heaven-crossing palm print. However, now that they saw Masters Junior use it, it was so powerful. Brother. Jun Changshao walked over and said in surprise, why is this martial art so powerful when you use it? Shouldn't a profound martial art be powerful? Gu Zhaoxi said. Jun Changshao said, the 7 mysterious sunglow break is almost outdated in our sect of all times. Now, in your hands, it can unleash such power. You're really talented. Brother, don't tease me. Gu Zhaoxi said, you can do it too. Jun Changshao shook his head. He communicated with the 7-colored energy between heaven and earth until the light gathered between his fingers. His face was filled with disbelief. At this moment, he could feel that the gathered energy light had undergone a drastic change from before. That's not right. He hadn't comprehended the 7 profound sunglow break for the past few years, so why was the condensed light beam so powerful? Was it because his cultivation base had increased? Wait. Jun Changshao soon discovered that the light beam was resonating with the true core, and the true soul energy within it was continuously strengthening it. Thus, he said in surprise, this has never happened before. Swish. With a flick of his finger, a beam of light flew out. Boom. The tall and straight mountain outside the sect was instantly blown to smithereens. I understand. Jun Changshao came to a sudden realization and said, the 7 profound sunglow break will be greatly enhanced with the support of a stronger energy source. He Wudi had known about this for a long time. When he saw the Patriarch and Gu Zhaoxi display their skills, he did not feel the slightest fluctuation in his heart. He thought to himself, the power of the true soul from the upper realm can barely control the martial arts created by Senior Qishuan. High-level martial arts might not be able to display their full power in a low-level world because there would be incompatibility. But with the power of the true spirit and the 7 profound sunglow break, the changes would be very obvious. Therefore, each generation was a god, and each generation played with Galen. After testing the power of the 7 profound sunglow break, Jun Changshao returned to the study and took out all 7 remnant scrolls. This was the original. The disciples and Gu Zhaoxi used the dungeons for cultivation. The difference between the two was that the original contained a special energy, as if there was some kind of profound meaning. Jun Changshao discovered it after he obtained it, but due to his low level, he could not pry into the mystery. Now that he realized that the martial arts were strengthened, he planned to study it carefully, but in the end, he still could not figure it out. No. The energy in this remnant scroll is too profound, I have to find someone to ask carefully. He Wudi was the one who knew the 7 profound sunglow break the most, but Go Xing did not know that the first remnant scroll he bought was stolen from him. So after thinking for a while, he went to the Rose of Flowers' residence and said, what secret is hidden in the 7 profound sunglow break? I'm not sure. How did you get it? I got it from a relic when I was conquering other planes. Jun Changshao found the black and white Rakshasa and asked about the 7 profound sunglow break, but he still did not get anything. To be exact, they all felt that there was some kind of profound meaning in the remnant scroll, but they could not decipher the secret. The more profound it is, the more complicated it is. Jun Changshao looked at the 7 remnant scrolls that were emitting a heavy aura and said to himself, if I can decipher it one day, I might have a great harvest. After the version update, the 7 profound sunglow break was instantly strengthened, so Jun Changshao ordered his disciples to study it diligently during cultivation. After gathering the power of true spirit, it could be put to use. Patriarch. One day, Lu Wanshi came to see him and said, "Meng Ying has been acting strange recently." "What's strange?" "She often talks nonsense when she's sleeping, saying something about the immortality of heaven and earth and the eternal existence of the demonic path." Jun Changshao suddenly frowned and remembered the huge black shadow that gathered behind the girl when he was cultivating in the spacetime's secret realm. Lu Wanshi said worriedly, "Is she going mad?" "Don't think too much." Jun Changshao said, "I'll go and take a look." After saying that, he went to the spacetime's secret realm. As soon as he walked in, he saw Yao Menjing sitting on the ground with demonic aura around her, gradually gathering into a huge black shadow. She whispered, "The immortality of heaven and earth, the eternal existence of the demonic path." Boom! Jun Changshao punched the black shadow and instantly shattered it. He scolded, "If you're a soul with self-consciousness, get out of my disciple's body." Patriarch. Yao Menjing opened her eyes and said with a firm gaze, "I want to go to the demonic territory." "Why?" Jun Changshao asked. "Because," Yao Menjing paused for a moment and said, "I keep feeling that there's an invisible force calling me. The demonic tribe was destroyed long ago, but the demonic territory still exists." Jun Changshao asked. "Yes." Gu Zhaoxi said. Jun Changshao looked back and said in surprise, "When did you come?" "Just now." Gu Zhaoxi looked at Yao Menjing and said with a serious expression, "Brother, I've long found that your disciple is a little unusual. If I'm not wrong, she might have the bloodline of the demonic tribe." The system broke down and said, "Isn't this guy a retard? Why does it seem like he's a different person all of a sudden? Although the demonic tribe has been destroyed for a long time, the territory still exists. If she goes in and awakens her bloodline, her strength will definitely increase greatly," Gu Zhaoxi said. Jun Changshao asked, "Where is the demonic territory?" Back then, the top powerhouses of the 10 major immortal sects worked together to seal the demonic territory. Regarding its location, no one knows. Gu Zhaoxi said. Jun Changshao rolled his eyes and said, "That's as good as not saying anything." However, Gu Zhaoxi said, "There's a mysterious organization that should know where the demonic territory is sealed." "What organization?" "Buried Moon Pavilion. The dark force that has been fighting with the Jia Hall for a long time." "That's right." "Where are they?" "I don't know." Patriarch. At this moment, Li Qingyang's voice rang in their ears, "Come out and see, there's a change in heaven and earth." Jun Changshao and Gu Zhaoxi hurriedly walked out of the secret realm and saw that in the west sky, rolling dark clouds gathered and formed a vortex. From afar, it looked like a huge chrysanthemum was blooming. It appeared again. Outside the extreme cave abode, Jinren Tonggu was also looking at the strange phenomenon. He shook his head and said, "That guy really thinks he can be resurrected? The destruction of the demonic tribe is a foregone conclusion. If he wants to forcefully reverse it, it's tantamount to going against the heavenly axiom," Masato Kitano said. "This time, the reappearance of the demonic fate will probably attract a group of moths to the fire. Your disciple won't join in the fun, right? That guy's strength is too weak. He should know his own limits and won't deliberately send himself to death." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.